Rebecca Snow is suing her ex-boyfriend, tractor operator Charles Dean, and his wife Donna for storage fees. Rebecca claims Charles was using her storage bin to hide belongings from his wife.
This is case number 211 on the calendar in the matter of Snow versus Dean. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Snow, you, according to your papers, were having an affair with Mr. Dean prior to and during the separation that he had with his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Dean, in order to ensure that his wife wouldn't get her hands on some of his property, had you take out a storage unit in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Where he put his property. And you want him to pay all the storage fees that you paid on that unit.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Dean says the storage unit was supposed to be in both your names, that he told you within a couple of months that he was reconciling with his wife, that he wanted his stuff back, that you refused to let him take his stuff back, and you allowed the fees to build up on this storage unit. He acknowledges he owes you about $100, and he is counterclaiming for all of his stuff. When did you separate from your wife, Mr. Dean? Give me the month
February.
and the year. Shh. Let me finish the question. Month and year.
February 2004.
Beginning, middle, or end of February?
Beginning.
And when did you move your stuff out of the house?
Before the 15th of February.
And is that when you asked Miss Snow to make arrangements for a storage unit?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you reconcile with your wife?
In March.
Beginning, middle, or end?
In the middle.
We're still working on that, Your Honor. We have not gotten back together.
When in March did you tell Miss Snow that you wanted your property?
Actually, she found out that I was talking to my wife, and that's when she went ballistic.
Do you remember when that was?
It was around the middle, towards the end.
And how much was the storage unit?
It was $141 a month, and it went to $145.
Well, if you went ballistic and you stopped seeing him in March, why did you keep paying on the storage unit?
I paid, the first payment was done the 7th of February. The second payment was done around the 11th of March. That's when I stopped payment, when I found out he was with his wife.
Fine. So that's two payments of $141.
Right, I have the receipt.
That's $282. Why are you suing him for $1,000?
Plus, there is another outstanding of $577 that's owed on the storage unit now.
Why didn't, well, I understand that. Why didn't you allow him to get his stuff in March?
Because I went to him to get his stuff. I went to his father to pay me the money that he owed me, plus I went to his sister, and they all promised to give me the money.
When?
Around the end of March, before the next payment was due.
When did Mr. Dean call you and ask you for his property?
He never did call me.
Go ahead.
I had talked to him prior. My father had offered to pay her the money. My sister had offered to pay her the money. My wife had offered to pay her the money.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I offered. She didn't want it because she was being vengeful.
She was angry because
yes,
she went ballistic.
Yes,
she found out you were talking to your wife.
That was the whole case, yes.
That sound right, Miss Snow?
No, ma'am.
Well, he certainly owes you $282. He doesn't owe you any more. Where's his property?
It's in a storage unit.
Your Honor, the storage unit is being auctioned. She has the only keys to the storage unit. I offered to ask her to sign it over to me. I take over the payments.
When?
I would say we met the beginning of March, and I told her that I would take over the payments. She signed everything over to me. She said I was welcome to pay on it, but she was not signing it over to me, give me any keys, that she was keeping everything in her name until she got things worked out with Charles.
I went to both of them and said, when she came to me about the storage unit, she did not offer to pay me the money that was owed to me. She wanted me to give her the belongings without giving me the money that was owed to me. They could have had the keys. I don't want the stuff. It was appraised at $400 from the people in the storage unit.
So why don't you give them the keys?
They haven't given me my money.
Where are the keys?
Right here.
Give it to them.
Okay.
Good. There are the keys.
Ma'am, but the stuff is probably auctioned off by now.
Well, I don't know whether it is or whether it isn't.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe her $282.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that you owe her $282 and not the $1,000 that she's asking
Yes,
for,
ma'am.
because I believe that after you and your wife started to talk again and you were reconciled, Miss Snow got angry. And she wasn't cooperative about you getting your stuff back. So if you let that stuff remain in storage, knowing full well that eventually they were going to auction it off, that's not right, Miss Snow. If, in fact, your stuff has been auctioned, according to... Listen to me. Listen to me. I don't know whether it has or whether it has not, and neither do you. So I'm going to allow you to withdraw without prejudice your counterclaim. If, in fact, your items were sold, you have a claim against her for maliciously withholding your property. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $282, and I'm allowing you to withdraw your counterclaim if, in fact, your items were sold. You can sue her for the full value of the items that you have receipts for.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I believe that she's upset because I broke the relationship off.
I'm also married myself, and I wanted to make my marriage work.
We're still not together because I still believe that they're still having contact, regardless of what either one of them say.
I have not had any contact whatsoever.
My opinion is it's not going to end. It's going to continue.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Stevens versus Stokes, step forward, please.
Bus driver Joseph Stevens is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old service representative Ginger Stokes, for the return of child support.
According to your complaint, you and Miss Stokes had a relationship. I don't know what kind of relationship, and Miss Stokes became pregnant. She took you to court for child support because at that time you were no longer in a relationship. You began paying child support for this child, a boy or a girl?
Boy.
And then you discovered that the child was not yours.
Yes, ma'am.
Biologically. So you want the support payments back that you gave to the defendant.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens, when were you and Miss Stokes in a relationship?
Around December 2000.
Until when?
About April or June between 2002.
2002 or 2001?
2001, I'm sorry.
During that time, did you live together?
Well, at that time, she was having problems at her house. So she asked, can she come stay with me? And she came and stayed with me for a little while.
What's a little while?
It was no more than like 2-3 months.
Okay. When did she tell you she was pregnant?
She told me she was pregnant around about April.
What did she tell you?
She came up and told me that she was pregnant, and I told her that, how could you be pregnant when, we've been using, protection? And then...
Who was using the protection?
I was.
Did you see her during her pregnancy?
No.
Did she call you when the baby was born?
Yes, she had called my mother's house. She had called me at the time that she was in the hospital and kept telling my mom for me to come up there to see the baby.
Did you go up to see the baby?
No, ma'am.
Why not, Mr. Stevens?
Because I felt as though that the baby, wasn't mine. And I just didn't want to go up there.
Did there come a time when you went to see the baby?
No.
Did there come a time that you were notified that they were taking some money from your paycheck?
No, the only time I found out is whenever I got a letter from her going down to the courthouse.
When did you go down to seek child support?
The beginning of 2003.
How old was the baby?
He was 6-7 months.
Is there any reason you waited to seek child support until the baby was 6 or 7 months old?
Yes. He at one point did come and we were talking on the phone and said that he would like us to be together, that he wanted us, the three of us, to be together, that he felt that that was his child. At the time, I had finally met somebody else and I didn't want to be with him. And after that, he wasn't coming around, he wasn't doing anything. I needed to go for child support.
Now, Ms. Stokes, how much money did you receive from Mr. Stevens after the court fixed a child support order?
A little over $800.
Is that right, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Stevens, I'd like you to tell me how ultimately this mystery was unraveled and you determined that this child was not yours.
Well, the job that me and her used to work at, there was people there telling me that, she was up there saying that the baby wasn't mine.
So you heard from sources that this child might not be yours, but you already knew that, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, I
mean, you already knew, based upon your use of protection, that there was at least a possibility that this child wasn't yours, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there was already a child support order in place, Mr. Stevens, is that right?
Yes.
Now, as an old family court practitioner, I know that you were served with a notice to appear in the family court on the issue of paternity, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't go, right?
Yes.
Why not?
Well, at the time, I was having a problem with my other 3 kids. And by that time, I was practically scared to go to the court.
You were scared to go to the court because?
I figured that I might have had like a, warrant or something like that.
Because you weren't paying child support.
Yes, at that time, because I wasn't working that much.
I'm glad you added that much. If you're going to make all these babies, Mr. Stevens, then you better get a lot of jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
Not work part-time. If you work part-time, you got all this energy. So you decided to blow off court, and they issued a default judgment against you, declared you to be the father. If you had gone to court immediately and said, listen, I want a blood test, they would have taken a blood test and they would have said, you're off the hook on this one.
But at that time, when I wanted to get a paternity test, I even talked to her about it. She kept telling me that they's not going to be able to do it, and you might have to pay for it out of your pocket.
Better off paying for it out of your pocket, sir, a couple of $100 than pay for the 21 years, right?
Yes.
You can't be short-sighted. You don't have any children together?
No.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
3.
So between you have 6 children?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that enough?
Oh.
Plenty.
Plenty, right? Plenty. 6 children. Now you're working full-time?
Yes.
Good. What kind of work do you do?
School bus driver.
Well, you must like children. Okay. How much did they take out of your pay, Mr. Stevens?
$842 altogether.
$842?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Miss Stokes, did we finally come up with a daddy for your baby?
Yes.
Is there a paternity proceeding pending, or has one been
No.
finalized?
No.
Why not?
So I have no idea where he is, and I don't want to pursue it because he's my son and he's my world, and I'm going to take care of him regardless.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $842. Thank you.
Why does that excuse you? They stepped out.
I'm very happy that the judge gave me back my money.
I'm just glad it's over.
If he was mine, I just wish that I would have been there for him.
It's been a struggle trying to take care of what I need to take care of.
I don't have no grudge against Miss Stokes.
I'm going to take care of him.
All parties in the matter of Ng versus Riley. Step forward, please.
Eye care professional Monica Ng is suing her one-time golf partner, technical consultant Steve Riley, for medical and dental bills. Monica says she was hit in the face by Steve's golf ball.
Missing, according to your complaint, you were playing golf and you were in a foursome?
Yes.
And Mr. Riley was in your foursome?
Yes.
And you got hit with a golf ball that he sliced. You want him to pay for all of your medical bills, you had dental problems, et cetera, et cetera. And Mr. Riley says, sometimes happens when you play golf. Not every shot's a perfect shot. It's part of the risk you assume when you play the game. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When did this happen, Miss Ng?
On January 31st at the Lakewood Country Club.
And how long have you been playing golf with Mr. Riley?
I've never played with him before.
So you were teamed up that day?
By the starter at the country club.
What hole were you playing when this incident happened?
The 9th hole.
And who teed off first?
The guys teed off first, and then I teed off last because I tee off from the ladies' tees.
After you teed off, everyone left the tee. Is that right?
Yes, we all walked to our balls.
And was your ball in front of Mr. Riley's ball?
It was horizontal, diagonal to his ball.
And he shot first?
Yes.
And you were watching him?
Yes, I was watching him the whole time.
Why didn't you stand behind where he was?
For slow play, any reasonable experienced golfer would walk to their ball so that you don't delay play, because slow play is the #1 problem with golfing.
No, the #1 problem with golfing is getting hit with a golf ball. So when I was reading your complaints, and I've been out on a golf course, although I am not a proficient golfer, since I don't know who I'm playing with, as you didn't know who you were playing with, and you're not sure of their skill, I wouldn't get into a position where you were anywhere in harm's way. I would stand well behind that person.
I felt I was not standing in a location where I was in harm's way.
But you were, right? Because you didn't play golf with him before. You didn't know whether he was a good player or a bad player, whether he sliced, whether he was straight, whatever. But you don't think that you have any responsibility to worry about yourself?
Yes, I have the responsibility to worry about myself, but I was standing in a location next to my ball. I was watching him the whole time.
You think he aimed at you?
No, he did not aim at me. It was an accident, but still, he's liable for any damages or injury caused by his actions, as stated in the golf course rules at the Lakewood Country Club.
Well, take a look at the rules of the Lakewood Country Club and see what they say.
Safety practices.
Let me see what the safety practices are. Yeah, well, this says that any person entering or playing on the golf course assumes full responsibility for his or her personal safety. That's you. And property. Players are liable for any accident, injury, and or property damage caused by their actions. Well, you're saying that his actions caused you to be injured.
Correct.
I'm saying your actions caused you to be injured. Miss Sang, my dear, when you play golf, there's a golf ball. That golf ball doesn't always go where it's supposed to go. Have you watched professionals play golf?
Yes.
Have you seen professionals sometimes slice their ball and it goes into a gallery?
Yes.
You think that they're liable if their ball hits somebody? They're not. Player's not liable. That's what the game is about. Somebody hits a very hard ball. Sometimes it goes where it's supposed to go. Sometimes it doesn't go where it's supposed to go. If it always went where it was supposed to go, nobody would watch the game.
We have a verbal agreement. After the injury, he was very apologetic for hitting me.
Yes.
And he gave me a cellular number so I can contact him so that I can get his home address to mail him the medical expenses.
Did you say that you would cover the medical expenses, Mr. Riley?
What I said was that if she wanted to go to the emergency room right then, I would help her with expenses. I did not say I would cover a week off of work. I did not say...
Absolutely not.
Right.
You're not responsible for a week
Right.
off from work. You're not responsible for her pain and suffering. You're not responsible for any of that.
Right.
So did you give him the medical bill from the emergency room?
I had not received it yet when I wrote him that certified letter.
Fine. What was your bill from the emergency room? $602 with the emergency bills. Is that right, sir? Now that you agreed to pay, according to you.
Yes.
Fine. Anything else?
Yes. A few months later, I noticed the back of my tooth was swollen, and I went to the dentist, and that's when they told me that I have ligament damage due to trauma.
Could be. That's not what he agreed to pay for. He agreed to pay for your emergency room bills. But for the fact that he agreed to pay for the emergency room bills, he would not be responsible. You assumed the risk when you got on the golf course of whatever happens when you play golf, unless, of course, he picked up his club and flung the club in anger, or if he hit you with his club, or if he ran you over with a golf cart. That you don't assume the risk, but you do assume the risk that somebody may not hit the ball straight, so you have to make sure that you don't put yourself in harm's way. And if being in a position where you were a little bit of a slow player is more important than keeping yourself out of harm's way, that's a choice that you make. He can't guarantee where his golf ball is going to go. If he could, he'd be Tiger Woods' partner, right?
Absolutely.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $602. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think the judge made a knowledgeable decision.
I saw him hit his ball, and it came right directly at me. I dodged, but not fast enough.
Fortunately, it was a glancing blow and not frontal.
It was a horrible incident. I want to forget about it.
I did agree to pay for the emergency room costs, and that's fair.
I know he did not mean to hit me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hartunian versus Godbond, step forward, please.
Massage therapist Carla Hartunian is suing political science professor Najib Godbond for medical bills and pain and suffering. Carla says Najib's 10-year-old daughter ran into her with a shopping cart.
Miss Hartunian, who is this lady?
This is my daughter. She was there right after the impact with the shopping cart.
Mr. Godbond, this is your daughter. You're 9?
10.
Okay. According to your complaint, this little girl was shopping at a food store at the same time you were shopping. She was shopping with her father. And there was an accident, and she hit you with the shopping cart that she was rolling in your ankle, back of your ankles. And you are claiming injury to your ankles, to your back, requiring medical care, loss of wages, pain and suffering, etc., to the tune of $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says this was an accident. He's sorry that it happened. He agreed to pay your medical bills if there was a problem, but he thinks that you're trying to scam him.
Yes.
When did this accident happen, Miss Cartoonino?
June 15th, 2003.
And where were you shopping?
In the produce section of Walmart.
And you were shopping in the same place?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
I was standing still looking at strawberries, Your Honor, and I heard running footsteps. Before I could turn around to see what it was, I was struck in the back and in the ankle. I snapped backwards and went almost down. I was holding my shopping cart, so I did not go all the way down. And the pain was immediate and excruciating.
Okay. So you were hit in the buttocks?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the ankle?
Yes, ma'am.
Did either of those two areas bleed?
No, but the ankle...
Just a second. Just answer my question.
No,
either one of those two areas bleed? So the answer is no.
No.
Did you have any black and blue marks on your buttocks?
A small one.
Did you take a photograph?
Not of that.
Did you have any black and blue marks on your ankles?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take any photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see the photograph. You can step up because Bert probably had an emergency. You don't look dangerous to me. Thank you. So it wasn't both ankles, it was one ankle.
One ankle.
One ankle that is clearly, it looks as if it's black and blue. So the extent of your injury, visually, was a black and blue ankle. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what happened when you were hit? Did Mr. Gadband come up to you immediately?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He was very nice. He told me he was sorry and wanted to know exactly what happened. I told him I was crying at the time and in very much pain.
Where were you in pain? In your ankle?
In my ankle, right.
Okay. Go ahead.
He was very, very nice. Over and over, he reiterated, it's going to be fine, it's going to be all right, I'll take care of it. Do you want to go to the doctor? He said, I'm a professor at the university, I'm a responsible person. Don't worry. He said, it's fine, I'll take care of it. Very, very nice.
Good. What happened?
Well, the Walmart people brought me ice and a chair, and I sat down in the chair and put the ice on my ankle. I sat there for about 15 minutes. The pain started subsiding a little bit, and I stood and I saw that the ankle was not broken, that I could put weight on it. So Mr. Godbin said, if you have any trouble, if you need to go to the doctor, I will pay for it. He wrote down his number and his name on the back of my grocery list.
Great. So far he's done everything right. So I assume you went to a doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume you had medical bills.
Yes, ma'am.
From going to the doctor. So did you call him and tell him about your medical bills?
Yes.
When did you call him?
Maybe less than a week later.
Okay. And?
He was not nice anymore.
Go ahead.
He was very mean and hateful.
Well, just a second. What did you say to him?
I told him that after I got home that night, I began having pains in my back. And the next day when I woke up, I could hardly stand up. It was very, very painful. So I did go to the doctor that day. The doctor did a chiropractic adjustment, did x-rays, told me to ice the back. After I'd gone to the doctor 2 or 3 times...
You're talking about a chiropractic?
Chiropractic and medical, both.
Okay. You have any medical records?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see your medical records from your medical doctor.
Okay. And
how did you find the chiropractor?
My daughter had used him before, and he was a very gentle, good chiropractor.
How did you find him? You found him through recommendation?
Through my daughter, yes, ma'am.
And did you, after June 15th, 2003, consult with an attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the attorney take your case?
He was not ready to take the case. He did not refuse the case. He did not take the case. It was in limbo.
You went to see another attorney?
Eventually.
When?
About 6 months later.
So I gather that the doctor that you went to see, not the chiropractor, you consulted after you saw the attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to having this accident with this 9-year-old child, you suffer from scoliosis. According to what you told the doctor, you were symptom-free as a result of your scoliosis, and now you have a backache.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but the only physiological problem that you could see as a result of being hit by this shopping cart was this ankle, correct?
That you could see.
Right. Okay. So when you spoke to Mr. Gadban, how much money did you tell him that you wanted?
I only asked him to pay my medical bills, Your Honor. Okay. That's why I couldn't understand
Good.
why.
And what were your medical bills? Let me see what your medical bills are. These are all the medical bills that you have?
I could no longer afford to go after he said he wouldn't pay.
You have $182 for physical therapy rehab. You have $88 for physical therapy rehab and $85 for physical therapy rehab. That's what you asked him to reimburse you for. But now you want $5,000 from Mr. Gadban.
Yes, ma'am.
Explain to me. I don't get it.
I am a massage therapist, Your Honor, and for several days after this accident, I could not give massages. I had to cancel appointments.
Okay, show me your book to show me how many appointments you had to cancel for the next few days.
I did not bring my book. I brought affidavits from the people that I canceled with.
I'll see those affidavits.
The quality of my service changed, Your Honor. I couldn't...
You may say that to me. I said you had a massage appointment. Okay. You have affidavits here. One of them says that your massage wasn't as smooth. I'm not paying any attention to that. You canceled, according to these affidavits, 2 appointments where you were supposed to make $100.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's $455. Okay. And?
I would like to continue treatment. My lumbar vertebrae are still not in the shape they were in before the accident.
I have no idea about that. Show me the x-rays and bring me an expert. Do you have an expert in the x-rays?
I have the letter that I gave you from the chiropractor saying I needed 16 more treatments.
Your chiropractor may say you need 100 more treatments. I don't care. Don't make a big deal about nothing. This happened over a year ago. And if you were that sick and you require treatment, what you do is you get the treatment and you pay for it. You take out a loan if you need it, and then you sue them. But you can't come into court and say, I really would like to take those treatments a year later because I'm really still not feeling well. So far, you had losses of $455, and that's what I think, Mr. Gadban, you should be responsible for. The rest of it, she can't document. And if she can't document it, there's a reason that the attorneys didn't take your case, madam.
I still have pain, Your Honor.
Listen to me. It was an accident in a supermarket with a 9-year-old child.
I know.
It's not your retirement. You are not going to retire on this injury.
I'm not trying
Judgment
to
for the
retire.
plaintiff in the amount of $455. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's a minor accident.
It may have been an accident, but I think that Mr. Godbian needs to teach his child how to act appropriately in public.
I just was not even really power walking.
I still have pain in my back.
Pushing the cart, and then all of a sudden, this lady just fell to the floor.
My body is my tool.
So, I'm so sorry. What happened?
Now the quality of my service has been compromised.
Plaintiff Arthur Foltz is suing his daughter, 27-year-old X-ray technologist Jennifer Foltz, for money meant for her wedding. Arthur says Jennifer doesn't want him to be a part of the ceremony.
Now, this is case number 120 on the calendar, the matter of Foltz versus Foltz. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
You have brothers and sisters?
I have a younger sister.
How old is she?
She's 26.
And how long ago did your parents divorce?
I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Mr. Foltz, this is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint is that you gave your daughter $3,000 for her wedding.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of circumstances, you decided not to go to the wedding, and you want that money back.
Yes, ma'am.
And your daughter said that this $3,000 was an unconditional gift, and she's already spent it on deposits, etc., for the wedding. When is the wedding scheduled?
May of next year.
Now, how many children do you have, Mr. Foltz?
2 children and 2 stepchildren.
And how long have you been married to your second wife?
15 years.
And how old are those children?
21.
21
25.
and 25.
Okay. So let's get down to it. You called your dad.
Mm-hmm.
You told him you were planning a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
You asked him for some help.
I actually didn't ask him for help. He asked me, said to me that he felt it was only fair that he pay 50% and that my mother pay 50%.
Well, that was very nice of him. So you had a reasonable relationship with him if he said that to you, at least now?
Up until, yeah, until recently, yes.
I want to ask your mother some questions, okay?
Come on up, Mom.
What's your last name?
Bean.
Your daughter told you initially, after she had spoken to her father, and her father agreed to contribute to the wedding, that it was her intention of having both of you walk her down the aisle?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were not happy with that?
It was not I was okay with it. I was fine with it. I was just worried that his animosity may create some problems.
Did you convey that to your daughter?
I already knew that.
Just a minute. That's not what I asked.
Yes, I did.
I'm asking you these questions, Jennifer, because, you know, if you've been around the block as long as I have, and as many times, nothing is new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting the following picture. When you spoke to your father, and he said to you, I really want to pay for half the wedding, and you told him that it was your intention to have your two parents walk you down the aisle,
mm-hmm.
he was pleased about that.
No, he wasn't.
Well, he says he was.
He wasn't.
Well, you don't know that because you weren't on the phone with him. But then later you told him that it was your intention only to have your mother walk you down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's then that he became angry.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want my money back. I'm not going to the wedding under those circumstances.
Can she tell you what happened after that?
Sure.
Tell her what happened after that. The planning.
Yeah, as my wedding planning progressed, my dad just kept making demands on me as far as he wanted his own table, he wanted it to be up front, he wanted to invite certain people, and he was just putting extra stress on me that I was already going through with the wedding.
Okay. Well, how many people were you planning on having at the wedding?
80, 100.
Well, then, wouldn't it be normal for him to have his own table?
I think he was under the impression that there would be my parents having their own table and my fiance's parents having their own table, and he wanted to make sure he wouldn't be sitting with my mother.
So, what's wrong with that?
There's a lot wrong with that.
No, there isn't. Jennifer, there's not a lot wrong with that. If you had two parents who really got along beautifully with each other and they had this lovely relationship that had developed over the years despite the fact that they were not together, then there wouldn't have been anything untoward about them sharing a table. But if you knew that they did not enjoy that kind of relationship, then you should have been smart enough to say, you have your table with your family. Of course, Dad.
Yeah,
you
I
have
did
your
say that.
If you have your table with your family, and Mom will have her table with her family, or maybe Mom will sit with, what's the boyfriend's name?
Doug.
Mom is going to sit with Doug's family, and you can sit with your family. 80 people. You're not going to all sit at one table. So, I'm just taking care of that problem. Now, what's the second problem that he raised?
He wanted to invite certain guests, and I wanted to have a smaller wedding. I didn't want strangers
What did he
at
want?
my wedding.
What did
Some close friends of his.
How many?
I think there were 2 of them.
That's reasonable, Jennifer.
Right, but if he wasn't even really involved in my life, why would he want to share that with other people?
Jennifer, you were willing to take his money, weren't you?
He offered
Just
it
a
to
second.
me.
You were willing to take his money,
Yes,
weren't you?
I was.
If you're willing to take his money, and if you said to him, and I want you and Mom to walk me down the aisle, and then you say, I changed my mind because he was making, according to you, unreasonable demands, I'm telling you, you're out of line. And I really wasn't prepared to go that way.
Listen, can I say something now?
Sure, you sure can.
I did not change my mind because I changed my mind because I'd always wanted it just to be my mom. It was my way of honoring my mom for raising me. I didn't do it to punish my dad. I didn't do it for anything other than to honor my mother. That's the only reason I made that decision.
Jennifer, my dear, then you shouldn't have told your father at the beginning, Dad, I want you and Mom to walk me down the aisle. You should not have told him that. Because what you're telling me now is, well, I told him that, but then he made these demands on me, which is what you said a moment ago.
It is what I said a moment ago.
Oh, yeah, he made these demands on me, which I now tell you, as a third party, totally unrelated to you, were totally appropriate requests from a person who really knows. Because although my husband and I have made many weddings, we have a mixed family.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what you're talking about. You're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong. And you did the wrong thing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He said, I'm not looking forward to walking you down the aisle.
Arthur Foltz says his daughter Jennifer Foltz owes for money given towards her wedding. Arthur says Jennifer doesn't want him to walk her down the aisle.
Those two things that your father asked to have is a separate table, separate from your mother, and to invite two friends.
He also wanted his own limo. No.
Shh, just a second. Well, tell me about that.
He asked me if I was going to have a limo at the wedding, and I said, no, I don't need one. I'm just going to drive myself to the place, get ready there. Later on that evening, we got together for dinner, my father and I, and he said that he was going to have a limo for him and his friends.
So he didn't ask you to pay for it, did he?
No, he didn't ask me to pay for it.
So?
But I just thought that was a little, odd. It's my wedding, but he wants to show up in the limo.
Who cares? Who cares if he comes in a bus? Who cares if he comes in a long bus, a short bus? It doesn't make any difference, Jennifer. You're picking on him. You're picking on him, honey. Life's too short.
It just bothers me that I didn't have much of a relationship with him when I was a child, and now he's trying to overtake the wedding and be a bigger part of the wedding than I feel he should be.
Jennifer, you're being a big baby.
I'm not being a big baby.
Yeah, you're being a big baby. And if you have bad feelings about your dad because he wasn't there for you when you were growing up, lots of children of divorce feel that way about their parents, especially when their parents remarry and have second family, right? That they're involved with, that live with them. Kids feel as if I didn't have the benefit of really a full-time or even a part-time great parent. It's never too late.
I don't feel as if it's too late.
Well, you shouldn't feel as if it's too late. And it's a shame if your father doesn't go to the wedding. It's a shame if you have a wedding that doesn't include your father and his wife and your mother. Are you remarried?
No.
And whoever she wants to bring, if she wants to bring anybody, and everybody else who's part of your life. It's a shame that you don't have that moment. You will, listen to me, you will always regret it. Because, you know why, Jennifer? You'll always look at that book of pictures and there'll be a bad feeling that he wasn't there.
You know what, though? When I told him that I wanted just my mom to walk me down the aisle, he said to me that I want nothing to do with your wedding. He took himself out of the wedding. I can understand he's hurt. I'm sure he's hurt. But if he doesn't go to my wedding, it's on his terms, not mine.
No, Jennifer, you're wrong. You're being young. You're being young. I disagree with him if what he chooses to do is to not go to the wedding. But I'm telling you, you're not a baby. You're a big girl.
I am a big girl.
And your mother should be a big person. And your mother should say, usually, if one parent walks a child down the aisle, it's usually their father, not their mother, unless their father's dead. And in this case, if you want to be a big person, and you want to be a big person, you say, for that 30 seconds that it takes to walk down the aisle, let's walk our daughter, our firstborn, down the aisle together and give her away, and then there'll be a picture of her family at her wedding. Because, what can happen is 10 years from now, when you and Doug have 2 kids, and you and your father have hopefully reconciled, your children will say to you, where's Poppy's picture at your wedding? And if you have not reconciled, then what you're doing is you're depriving your children of the widest possible community of love and affection.
I wouldn't be the one that would deprive them of that, though. He would be the one that would not make the effort.
You hurt him?
I know.
You
I
hurt
understand that.
You hurt him? He's supposed to be bigger than that. Your mother is supposed to be bigger than that.
I didn't do a thing.
Well, you did, Miss Bean.
Yeah, exactly.
You did, because you said to your daughter, and you acknowledged that you said to your daughter, I hope he can get over certain things, and I hope he's not going to be hostile. And
in response to his hostility when she told him that we were going to do it together.
Madam, I'm talking about before you got there. Before you got to the point where she said, I changed my mind, Dad, only Mom is walking me down the aisle. Then he got hostile.
He was hostile before I changed my mind.
He was hostile from the beginning.
Not looking forward to walking you down the aisle with your mother. And I said, why? And he goes, because we know how that turned out last time. And I said, Dad, you're not marrying my mother. You're giving me away.
Is that true, sir?
No, ma'am.
I mean, I don't understand how that could be true if if he said to you, I want to pay for half the wedding. In the same conversation, when he said to you, I want to pay for half the wedding, and you're telling me now that his conversation was hostile?
Yes.
I don't believe you. Listen, Mr. Foltz, I can see I'm not getting anywhere. I've made my best effort, sir. You gave your daughter $3,000 for the wedding. It was a no-strings gift. I hope you go to the wedding, and Jennifer, I think if you want to grow up to be a big person and your mother wants to be the loving mother that she is, you will decide that it's the right thing that both your parents walk you down the aisle. You still have plenty of time to do that and to make up so that you don't end up looking at that wedding album 20 years from now and saying it was really a sad day. Mr. Foltz,
Your Honor.
Say nothing. Say nothing. You made your daughter a $3,000 contribution towards her wedding. I hope she does the right thing with it.
I do have to
Case over.
All these are excused, you may step out.
I think we're still both very hurt and angry, and I think that neither one of us really wants to take the step towards mending our relationship.
25 years ago, I tried to make amends to my ex-husband for the trouble that I caused in our divorce.
Her statement that I didn't raise her, and that's, it's very hurtful to me.
25 years is a long time to hold a grudge. But I don't want to see anything between him and my daughter get worse and divide them forever.
My heart tells me that I love her, but I just don't think it's being reciprocated.
My wedding's supposed to be a happy time, and it's turning out to be not quite so happy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martin versus Martin. Step forward.
26-year-old insurance sales assistant Karen Martin is suing her ex-husband, home improvement salesman Kevin Martin, for stealing her share of a tax refund. Karen claims Kevin forged her signature on the check.
Ms. Martin, the defendant is your former husband. It is your claim that there was a government refund check in the amount of $400 that was issued to both of you. It is your claim that Mr. Martin forged your signature to that check, cashed that check, and you want your $200.
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Martin says there was no check that he received. He did not forge your name to any check, and he, quite frankly, doesn't know what you're talking about. Okay. So let us assume for a moment that a refund check was sent to Mr. and Mrs. Martin. So your obligation now, Ms. Martin, is to establish that he forged your name to that check.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you.
Okay. I do have a copy of the check where it's signed by him, and that is not my signature.
Okay.
I do have other...
Okay, let me see it.
Okay.
Mr. Martin, the Family Service Center, you familiar with that institution?
Yes, I am.
Tell me about that institution, sir.
It's a credit union that we had, as we were married, had an account there.
Mm-hmm. Are you trying to tell... clearly this check was sent to the two of you, and clearly it was endorsed by two people.
I never knew anything about the check. I never even knew that we were getting some kind of tax credit check.
How did you find out about the check, Miss Martin?
My cousin had received hers, and she had asked me if I got anything on it, and I...
These were the checks that were $400 that were issued to families by President Bush, is that right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. It was $400 per child, and she had received hers and asked me if I received mine, and I said, no, I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I had called Kevin, asked him about it.
And what did he say?
He said, he had still said, I have no idea what you're talking about. How do you... Actually, he said, how do you know that I... Or how does he know that I didn't forge his signature?
So, Mr. Martin, what I'm asking you is that the conversation you had? How do I know you didn't forge my signature? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the answer. The answer is you weren't calling her to complain that you didn't get your $200, right?
I never knew.
No, listen to me.
Okay.
You weren't calling her, Mr. Martin, to complain that you didn't get your $200.
No.
Because according to you, you didn't know about it. So why would she call you to complain? Listen to me. Call you to complain. If she had forged your signature to the check so that she got the entire $400 and you weren't calling her to complain about it, you get my drift, sir?
I understand what you're saying.
Old story. If it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So somebody from your credit union cashed this. I'm speaking. Somebody from your credit union cashed this check with a signature that I have compared with the signature on your answer, and with a signature that I have compared with the signature on Miss Martin's complaint. And while that's not necessarily dispositive of who forged whose signature, the signature on this check, your signature on this check, is eerily similar to your signature on the answer, while her signature on the check is no way similar to her signature on her complaint. So I put those facts together, and you know what I came up with? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all. Step out.
All these are excused and they step out.
She's accused me of kicking her car, slashing her tires, cutting her brake line.
He has 2 domestic violence charges against him. I have a PPO against him currently right now.
She hates me. I left her.
There was multiple threats about bodily harm to me because I'm her new boyfriend, and it was the classic case of the husband being jealous of his ex-wife's new boyfriend. It's pretty cut and dry.
She won't leave me alone. She's made my life a living hell, and I'm just tired of it.
Well, you know, he knew that wasn't my signature. He knew it was his signature, and obviously Judge Judy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nguyen versus Guerra, step forward, please.
20-year-old student Tawny Nguyen is suing her former landlord, speech teacher Sylvia Guerra, for the return of her $450 deposit and for the value of stolen property. Sylvia's countersuing for the remainder of the lease.
Ms. Nguyen, you're a university student?
Yes.
And according to your complaint, you rented a room from the defendant.
Yes.
And she rents rooms to several students.
Yes.
And it is your claim that she wrongfully evicted you from the room, that she should pay for that wrongful eviction, or a whole bunch of expenses. In addition, it's because of her negligence that some property of yours was stolen out of the house. You want her to pay for that, and you want her to pay for the return of your security deposit.
Yes.
Ms. Guerra says that she tried to be nothing but nice to you, that nothing of yours was stolen from the house. As a matter of fact, because of your negligence, property was taken from the rest of the house. She believes you should be responsible for that. And in addition, she is suing for the remainder of the rent that you owe her under your lease. So she's counterclaiming. When did you sign a lease for the room?
January 28th, 2004.
Can I see the lease, please?
Yes.
When did you move out?
I moved out on March 7th. The problem was she had made the 10 o'clock rule that no guests would come in after 10 o'clock. So I had my boyfriend come in one time with me at 10:30, and Ms. Guerra had a problem with it, and I said, I'm sorry, I will never do that again. But the main problem was that my boyfriend was left at my in my room for 2 hours on Wednesday on March 3rd. That's when Ms. Guerra got upset and pulled me aside and told me that she didn't appreciate the fact that my boyfriend was there alone by himself. And Ms. Guerra started using obscene languages at me and calling me names. Then my boyfriend interfered and told her to stop talking to me like a mom, like even less than a mom. And Ms. Guerra started fighting with my boyfriend. Then she turned to me and said that I had 3 days to move. And this is what she gave me, the 3-day notice to perform conditions or quit. Saturday, I gave her the letter saying that upon your restated conditions, I would like to stay and perform the conditions to fulfill my contract.
You say, well, I'm going to comply with the terms that you indicate in the lease that I should have been complying with all along. But if you have a problem with it, you may choose to end the lease. And my obligation under the lease will also end. So what you're doing is covering yourself, which is very smart. You say, I'll leave, but if I leave, I'm not going to be responsible for any more rent. Right?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Guerra, let's move on.
She acknowledged that it was uncomfortable for all the other females in the house to have her boyfriend staying there when she wasn't there, day and night. him entering all hours of the night through the back door. And she would not agree to stop doing that. So she had to choose to either stop doing that or leave.
Actually,
I will, and she signed this agreement, said, I will leave on Sunday, March 7th at 10 p.m. This will leave no obligation or financial responsibility on my part to fulfill the lease agreement, which ends September 1st. Tenant, she signed it and you signed it. So why, madam, are you here?
Because she would not give me the deposit money back, and also the money that I had lost during the burglary for totaling $750. She would not give
Okay, so let's talk about the burglary first.
Yes.
Ms. Guerra said that the house was in fact burglarized, but it was burglarized because of your negligence in leaving the back door open. She also says, and listen to me very carefully, you say you lost $750 worth of property, is that right?
Yes.
Ms. Guerra said that she has a document, she said this in her answer, that says otherwise. May I see it, please?
I also have a document.
I didn't ask you for anything yet.
Let me turn to the right page. This is the police report.
Okay, can I see it, please? The method of entry for this burglary was a house unlocked. They came in through the back door?
Yes.
Unlocked, and that's your door. Is that right?
No, that's not my door. That's everybody's door. Just because she gave me the key to come in late at night does not mean that it's only my door.
But she gave you the key to come into the back door late at night. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Am I correct that this burglary occurred on the 17th of February, 2004?
Yes.
And am I correct that you reported items missing some 2 months later on April 6th, 2004?
Actually...
Just answer my question.
Yes.
You reported it to the police after you were evicted?
Yes, because...
Get real. Okay. Now, why can't she have her security deposit back, $450?
Because she did not pay rent for March, and I found somebody that came in April 1st who's paying less rent, so I'm also losing each month by her not fulfilling her lease
Ms.
agreement.
Guerra, you have a counterclaim that's nonsense.
Okay.
You signed an agreement with the plaintiff that if she moved out, you were releasing her from any terms and conditions under the lease. So how could you now file for a claim for $3,000 for the money left remaining under the lease? How can you do that when you signed an agreement saying, if you go, I'm holding you harmless? How can you do that?
I figured since we were all suing each other, she was suing me, I would just sue her for what we also had in writing.
Think again.
Okay.
Think again. I don't like to be bothered.
Okay.
You owe what?
I believe that the item stolen from my room is what happened, and I did not have the police report right away because she had promised me that she would call the police to do that for me. And when...
Well, that's too bad. If I believe you, it's too bad, and I don't believe you. I believe that you set up this additional lawsuit in April, 2 months after the incident, and after you were evicted, and she didn't return your security deposit. Put your hand down. And after she didn't return your security deposit, a month after she didn't return your security deposit, you decided to make a whole big lawsuit.
I had no choice. She made me sign the paper.
Grow up. Listen, give her back $300 of her security deposit. She did, in fact, live there for a full week in March. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Why does our excuse you may step out?
I don't feel that I broke the rule because Ms. Guerra, after the burglary, allowed me to have my boyfriend come in after 10 o'clock.
Her boyfriend lived there, and I was trying to not let that happen and get in the way of evicting a student during the semester.
I never really spoke to her, never really talked to her. I just come in, be with my girlfriend, and that's it, and I would leave.
I think Ms. Guerra scammed everybody by only having international students live there, and she mistakenly thought that I was also an international student.
If she's suing me for items that were not even there, I figured I just will go ahead and countersue for what was really stolen from me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Diva versus Hess. Step forward.
23-year-old animal caretaker Danielle Deaver is suing former roommate, 26-year-old skateboard rep Todd Hess, for breaking a lease.
Ms. Deaver, the defendant was a roommate, friend of yours. You entered into a lease together to share an apartment, and it is your claim that he moved out without paying move-out fees, which ended up costing you a substantial amount of money, and you want him to pay for half of that. Mr. Hess says you threw him out of the apartment, and he owes you nothing. When did you move in with Miss Deaver?
No, October or November.
Why?
She just moved back into Wisconsin from California, and I was unhappy with the living arrangements that I was at. So we
And you
decided-
knew each other before?
Yes.
For how long?
About a month and a half.
You knew him for a month and a half before you took him in as a roommate?
Yes.
It's interesting. When did you move out, Mr. Hess?
December?
Why are you asking me? You
I
said
was
December? I don't know.
I believe December.
Is that when he moved out?
It was December.
December what?
The 28th.
Now tell me about December 28th. Under what circumstances did Mr. Hess move out?
I had just gotten back from vacation. We hadn't seen each other for just about a week. Came back, I don't know, started fighting, not sure.
What were you fighting about, Miss Deaver?
No, I don't recall. Just
Well,
bickering.
now, just a second. So you don't recall what you were fighting about. But Mr. Hess does. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Try to be a little more assertive.
All
What
right.
kind of work do you do?
I am a rep for skateboarding brands, companies.
A what?
Outside rep.
An outside rep. That means you're a salesman.
Yes.
Salesman. Ha ha! Got to be a little more forceful, Mr. Hess.
All right.
So you remember the 28th? Because you tell me you do. You remember what happened.
Yes, I remember.
So she came back from vacation. She was gone for about a week. Had anything happened prior to her going on vacation?
Well, I found a girlfriend, and we started dating.
This
prior
girlfriend
to-
right here?
Yes.
Girl with the blue hair. Is that your real hair?
What? My real hair, yeah, not the real color, no.
Even Bird knew that. Okay. So you found a girlfriend before she went away on vacation. That's something had changed. And what happened when she came back from vacation on the 28th of December?
She went out with some friends, went to a bar, I assume, drank, got
Move it forward a little
got
bit.
drunk, came home screaming at me about everything, about
Well,
the
tell me
living
what she was
situation.
saying to you, Mr. Hess.
Well, she liked me more. I wasn't. I guess it wasn't the smartest thing to do is to move in with someone when, there was attraction. And in early December, I put an end to us hanging out. So it got kind of uncomfortable to live with each other.
Now, good. Now I got the background. You moved in
Okay.
together. She may have had intentions that were different from yours. You're there for a little while. You find a girlfriend, and you are drawn to her instantly. That blue hair was dazzling.
Yes.
She goes away on vacation. She comes home, goes out with some friends, comes back, and she's angry about the girlfriend.
Yeah, but this isn't the first time that her anger has, made living arrangements unbearable. There's been nights where I was in bed sleeping, and she'd be trying to get in my room with a knife through the door handle, screaming, banging on my door in front of her friends, in front of my friends. So on the 28th, when she told me in a drunken rage to leave, she wanted me to move out, I just thought...
What exactly did she say?
She said, "Get out, I want you out of here. Leave, just grab your stuff and leave."
Perfect. And that's what you wanted. And that's what you did.
And that's what I did. I had no
That's
place
what
to
he
go.
says happened, Miss Deaver. He said you came home, you were a little bit high, you got into a battle, you don't remember what it was about, so I have to believe him.
Well, that's what he says, but how could I have paid the rent on the 28th to the manager before 5 o'clock, or just after 5 o'clock when he got home from work, if this happened the 28th at night? He didn't even remember when he moved out. I had written the rent check on the 28th for my half to secure that I would stay there when he told me the 27th he was moving out.
What I'm saying is, he says you told him to leave.
That's not true.
Well, but you say you don't remember.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, sure you did.
You said I
no,
didn't
no, no, no,
remember.
no. You didn't remember sufficiently to testify. I said, what was the fight about? You said, I don't know. I said, well, he knows. So if you don't know what the fight was about, and he says, I know what the fight was about Miss Lovely, and she told me to get out, then I have to believe him.
Which is not true, because we actually were on a fight, and he said, "Can you leave me alone? I'm on the phone with my girlfriend." And I said, "I didn't even know you had a girlfriend." So this was in the midst of our fight that all of a sudden he was talking on the phone. So the whole girlfriend thing didn't even come up till after we were already arguing.
What were you arguing with him about?
Roommate things, I don't know. I had just gotten home from
Are you still in the apartment?
No. I have the 5-day notice to pay or leave. I had paid my half for the January rent on the 28th, which supposedly the day the fight was, which wasn't true. But I had paid the 28th for my half of
January's rent.
Yes.
So I have to determine whether or not he is required to pay any other rent when the situation in the apartment escalated to the point of, it didn't involve physical violence yet, but it quite well might have had it escalated any further. Somebody was going to call the police if he was screaming and yelling at him or at each other, and I believe him because I have nothing to the contrary. You don't remember what the fight was about, and he says you told him to get out. Sounds right. And if you told him to get out on the 28th, and he did, then he's not responsible for January's rent. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused when you step out.
Don't move in with someone you don't know who's been evicted a few times before.
Everybody's seen her get gnarly, crazy all the time about stupid stuff, and I had to live in a basement for a couple months because of her.
Somebody has money and they say they'll pay you later, and they don't know you well enough to know you're not going to. This is what happens.
He was locked in his room, and he was like, "Yeah, she's coming at my door with a knife," and I'm like, "Wow, you gotta get out of there."
Now it's over. I don't ever have to deal with him again, so I'm happy.
26-year-old student Mary Sandy Saturday is suing 25-year-old store owner Taquana Colvin for lost wages due to a false arrest. Taquana claims Sandy assaulted her, and she's countersuing for lost wages and emotional distress.
That's case number 83 on the calendar in the matter of Saturday versus Colvin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Who's this?
This is my mother.
Who's this?
This is my mom.
Do you work?
I just graduated college.
And you?
I have my own business.
What kind of business?
It's a secondhand store that sells home interiors and clothing.
Okay. How long have you been in that business?
Just 4 months.
And what kind of work does your mother do?
My mother's retired.
From what?
The electric company.
You think your mother ever had a fist fight with anybody?
Yes, I do.
You do? You think your mother ever had a fist fight with anybody?
She has not.
Right?
Right, it's not.
Ridiculous, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Did you ever have a fist fight with anybody?
Yes, I have.
Really?
Yes.
How many times?
One time, someone came to my house to fight me.
How long ago?
25 years ago.
Okay. One time. I don't understand girls having fights.
My mother had a fist fight.
Sorry, Bert, I don't care. Yeah, I'm sure your mother's a nice lady. I don't understand.
Is.
I don't understand ladies having fists. I don't understand men having fist fights, but they're men, so you sort of understand it. But I don't understand women.
Yes, having fights.
Nurturers. Caregivers.
Yes.
Pulling hair, scratching eyes, using their... I don't understand that. You agree?
Yes, I agree.
So, it is your claim that the defendant had you falsely arrested twice for various acts, and the second time was for violating a protective order that she had against you. The defendant has a cross-complaint. The defendant's cross-complaint is that you assaulted her and caused her to lose a contact lens, so you both want lots of money from the other for emotional distress and this loss of your freedom and the filing of false charges against you. Those charges were subsequently dismissed after a trial.
Yes.
Okay. How do you know each other?
I met Taquana through a mutual friend.
What started the problem between the two of you?
Taquana is just a bad person. I was around her only for about 2 months, and the type of person she is just, she's a bad person. She does bad things. She's very argumentative.
So you didn't like her?
Yeah, and I decided I didn't want to be around her. And while she was still friends with the friend that we met through, I even told Taquana, like, well, since you're around her and I'm around her, we're going to get along, just like that. And the last time I had seen Taquana was probably like the beginning of June of 2003, and didn't see her again to September 9th, September 10th at a nightclub. And I seen her with her cousin. I went up to her cousin, because Taquana and her cousin, they just started being back friends.
Listen to me.
Okay.
I have other cases to do.
Okay,
today. Let's get to it.
Okay, well, I said something to Taquana's cousin, and evidently her cousin said something to her.
So you said something negative
I
about
really didn't say. I'll tell you what I said. When I was seeing her cousin, I went to her, I gave her a hug, and I told her, I was like, if you need a friend to hang around, I will hang around you. You do not have to hang with Taquana. Taquana is a bad person.
So you said negative things about her?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. On September 10th, the night that I seen her, Taquana called like 3:40 in the morning, left me this crazy, terrible message telling me that she's going to handle me, she's going to come to my house, she's going to see me, this and this and that, and she's going to call me early in the morning. At 8:40 in the morning, she also called me and told me that she's going to come over my house and handle me. And I have the recording right here if you would like to hear it. Brace yourself.
Saved message.
Okay, just stop. Stop the tape. Make it lower, Bird, so that, because it probably is distorting the sound, so that I can hear it. I got the gist.
You got
Why would you call her and leave that kind of a message?
Because Sandy had been slandering my name to relatives as well as...
what had she been saying about you that you heard?
She had been saying that I give oral sex, I will steal your man, I will steal your money, I'm a bad person, just all types of things about my character that were false.
So?
So, I was...
You think that a message like that says that you're a good person?
No, it doesn't.
You think it says that you are a genteel person?
I think that that type of message would just lead somebody to believe that I was highly upset.
Well, we're going to get her, because that's what you said.
Yes,
in the
I was...
message. That's what you said in
I
the
didn't say
message.
that I was going to get her.
Well, pretty much.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Sandy Saturday says Taquana Colvin had her falsely arrested for assault. Taquana claims Sandy beat her up and threatened her life.
She called you and she left a nasty message. What's next?
Okay, when she filed a false charge against me for, she said I was stalking her. This was like on March 10th.
Let me see what she filed against you.
And that's how my mother got involved.
Well, it says that, did she assault you in September of 2003?
Yes.
How?
Sandy called me back at my cousin's house, and we talked, and she stated at that time that she didn't want to fight me, and she was tired of arguing with me. And so at that time I asked Sandy, what will it take for you to stop?
That is the whole
No. Listen to me.
Okay.
Say nothing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What will it take for you to stop slandering my name and talking about me constantly? And I suggested, if I give you back your $50 for the 50-cent concert ticket, would that settle the dispute?
Why were you going to give her back the $50? Had she given you $50 and you didn't give her the ticket?
Yes, she had, I gave her the ticket, actually. She had gave me, before we went on a summer vacation together, I purchased a set of 3 tickets. One was for Mary, one was for another person, and one was for myself. And we went on the summer vacation where Sandy and this other woman started being really mean to me. So by the time that I returned to Cincinnati, I had pretty much decided that I was going to end the relationship with Mary and her friend, and that they were not going to the concert with me. I had purchased them on my credit card, and what I wanted to do was just reimburse them for their money. And take other people, and Mary agreed.
That was September
10th. So I went over to her house.
What time?
Almost noon.
Okay.
When I stepped up on the curb, Mary appeared at the door. She ran out of her house and ran down the steps, and she approached me. She asked me, "What the do you have to say now?" And I said, "I don't have anything to say to you. I'm coming over here." And before I could finish my sentence, she punched me in the forehead.
And then what happened?
And she continued punching me. She started choking me. I was pushing Mary back by her shoulders, constantly asking her to stop fighting me. She was choking me, said, "I'm going to choke the hell out of you. I'm going to kill you." Basically, I punched Sandy back a few times or so, trying to keep her off me. I turned and I ran across the street, and she chased me across the street and grabbed me by the back of my hair. It was just basically hitting on me.
Fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me your interpretation of the
Okay,
events
Judy.
of September 10th.
I never called Taquana. I never spoke with Taquana. I haven't had a conversation with Taquana since probably the end of May. About around 12 o'clock or whatever, ritual, I go to the gym around that time. I comes out my house, and Taquana's sitting in her car waiting for me. And I walked down down the stairs, and we just started fighting. But you didn't hear the rest of this tape. The tape is crazy, and it's just crazy. And the police, I did call the police because I live on a cul-de-sac, and Taquana and some girl kept riding on the adjacent street from me. And I sat on my porch and waited.
And you were arrested as a result of...
I was arrested 12 days later, the first time.
But for this incident?
For
this incident on September 10th?
Yeah, I was arrested
September
on September 22nd.
Can I see the paperwork you have, please?
Okay. This is for assault. This is the dismissal for the TPO, and this is the acquit for the valet and the protection order.
Yeah, well, it says on September 18th. Not September 10th. It says it's September 18th. Was there another argument on September 18th?
No.
No.
Obviously, they got this all wrong.
She had did this to other people in 2003 too. So since she done did it to so many people, they probably got mixed up.
Well, maybe I'll ask that question. Maybe it will be in this other report. Have you been cited for any other assault in 2003?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you have. Right here.
You sure? Before I look at any other document, Ms. Colvin.
I totally forgot about that, but I didn't have to go to court on it.
Can I see it, please? That's not what I asked
They just drove
you.
us to the police. Yes, ma'am.
And this fight ended out in 2000.
Yes, you certainly have. How many times have you been cited for assault?
I think just 2 leading up to that situation.
It's fair to say that you have a problem with your temper.
I don't have a problem with my temper.
How many times have you been taken into custody for assault?
None.
With the exception of this time?
Yeah, with the exception of that one. Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Including myself, 2 other people filed protection orders against Taquana in 2003.
And they were
dismissed. Can I see them, please?
All for the same thing.
Can I see them, please?
No, that's not true.
Can I
I
take
speak,
a look?
Judge?
What?
Can I speak?
Sure.
Okay. Ma'am, Sandy is saying that Taquana does all this and all that. This has been a big ongoing thing with our cousin.
Listen to me. I have a
Yes.
who sought a protective order against you.
Ex-boyfriend.
I don't care, but he sought a protective order.
Okay.
I have a...
Yes, and they were both dismissed.
They were both dismissed.
Listen to me. You have a temper. I just heard it. Okay, so I have one incident here that caused this protective order. It was ultimately dismissed.
Yes.
Okay, now let's get to the second one. The second cause of action that you have is that these 2 ladies came to your place of business and you told your boss that there was a protective order because there was a temporary protective order in place. He asked you to leave. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did leave.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you filed a violation of the temporary protective order.
Yes, ma'am. Can I tell you what happened?
Sure.
When we
No. I want her to tell me what happened.
I left the bar manager.
How many bars are there in Cincinnati?
Many.
So how do you think it came about that you chose the one where she was employed to go into with your mother?
It's not that I chose the one that she was employed at. I live on that street. My business is on that street, and I attend that bar several times a week. Mary chose to get a job at that bar knowing that I had already been living on that street, had already been owning a business on that street. She got the job. Did she have proof of how long she had been working at that bar?
Just a second. Don't ask me. You're showing your temper, honey.
Okay.
I'm going to just let you go. You're going to bury yourself. On what basis do you claim that she violated the protective order?
Before the bar manager came over to ask me if I had a restraining order against her or whatever, I agreed. I told him, yes, I did have a temporary restraining order against her. He said, okay, that's fine. When you finish with your drink, would you please leave? I said, sure, I will leave when I'm finished with my drink.
Why didn't you just leave?
Because I was in the middle of my drinks as well. I was with my
when you
relatives.
file a protective order against somebody, that
I was
means...
there first, Your Honor.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
When you file a protective order against someone, Miss Colvin, it means that you're afraid of them, right?
Supposedly, yes.
What do you mean supposedly, yes?
That you're supposed to be afraid of this person. Yes.
Right.
But I was with my...
Sit down. So I would assume that when you filed, since you say you're a normal person, that when you filed a protective order against her, you filed it because you were afraid of her.
Right.
Well, then, I wouldn't wait till I finished my drink, even though I was there first. I would say to my mother, I don't want there to be any trouble. Let's go. You, on the other hand, decided to stay because you were there first. And your store is on that street, and you had a right to be. Well, that's what you just told me. You said I was there first.
I was there first, but I was going to leave like the bar manager asked me when I finished my drink.
He shouldn't have to ask you.
Okay.
Don't you understand what I just said? He shouldn't have to ask you,
because
madam.
I'm supposed to be afraid, right?
Let me tell you something. I believe that she filed these protective orders against you, and I believe she filed them maliciously. And I believe she knew about filing protective orders because she had already been served with a few herself in her lifetime, so she knew exactly what kind of trouble you could get into. Now, is the assault that you are claiming the assault when you went over to give her back her $50? That's your counterclaim, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's baloney. Because that girl whose foul, fresh mouth left 2 messages on that machine did not go over to make peace the next day. No way. So your counterclaim is dismissed.
Yes,
and I believe that she did file these cases against you maliciously. You were ultimately fired from your job. You're seeking $3,000 in damages. Now, my question to you is, do you believe that you acted appropriately in all of your dealings with the defendant?
Very appropriately.
Okay. Put your hand down. Better teach your daughter a little self-control. She needs it. Tell me about your job. When did you lose your job?
Let me tell you what they did. When they talking about they was going to just leave after the drink, no, they put up a fight to stay in the bar. They put up a fight. And
what did they say?
They was talking to the manager, talking about it's a public place. They have the right to come and drink this and this and that. And I get to work at 6 o'clock. About 7:15, they were still in there. And then 3 police officers came to my job, got me from out the bar, and arrested me. Taquana told them I threatened to kill her.
You mean at the bar?
At the bar. And then a few days later, or the next day, her and her mother, she get it from her mother. Her and her mother requested a meeting with the bar manager and the owner to get me fired.
Is that when you were fired 3 days later?
Yes.
But you were removed from the bar by the police?
I was physically removed and arrested.
Why?
She was removed from the bar because she went back by the register and turned around and faced me and my party and did this, and at the same time said that you were dead.
You shouldn't have been there.
Yes, ma'am.
You were annoying her. Okay. You and your mother and whoever else you were with. You had no right to be there. Saturday is seeking compensation for having her falsely arrested and for losing her job in the amount of $3,000. I'm awarding her $3,000.
Thank you.
You better learn to watch yourself. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000.
Thank you.
That's all.
Everything that girl said was a lie. Everything. Her life is a lie.
We don't want Mary to call our house or even be, talk about her in the street. She won the money. That's all she wants. She needs to let it go.
This should be the end of it.
Her mother is the devil. She's the devil advocate. I'm grown. I didn't bring my mother into this. She brought my mother into this because she made false charges against my mother, too.
She knew that I was coming over there like we agreed on the telephone, and I was approaching the building to give her the money.
Tawana got what she deserves. She has done this to other people, and I'm the only one who took it this far, but she got what she deserved.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Blessum versus Blessum. Step forward.
22-year-old salesperson Kaylee Blessum is suing her brother, 19-year-old warehouse worker Adam Blessum, for crashing her car. Adam says Kaylee's insurance should pay.
What's your first name?
Kaylee?
Kaylee. That's your brother. You each have a car.
Yes.
What kind of car do you have?
A 2000 Mitsubishi Galant.
And what kind of car does Adam have?
He had a 2002 Mitsubishi Galant.
What happened to his car?
He got into an accident a couple months ago.
Totaled his car?
Mm-hmm.
When did he borrow your car?
He borrowed it around May 10th of 03.
And at that time, he had a car?
Yes.
But he liked your car better because your car had nicer...
rims and just flashier of a car.
I know you love these cases. You borrowed her car to go over to a friend's house.
Yep.
And what happened, Adam?
On the way to bring a car back, I slid on some kind of ice. So I slid off to the left side of the road and hit a tree.
And what did you do to your sister's car?
I broke the headlight, the bumper, and crushed the fender a little.
A lot of damage.
So you caused some damage to her car.
Yeah.
And you want him to pay for the damage.
Yes.
Adam says, why didn't you put this through the insurance that you had on the car?
I called the insurance company, and they actually told me that if I did, because he
was 19 years old, your insurance rates would go up, and they would go up for a very long time.
Right.
So you want her to put this through her insurance, and you'd be, according to you, more than happy to pay for her deductible. Is that right?
Right.
That's your defense.
Yeah.
Are you more than happy, Adam, to pay for her increased insurance rates for the next 5 years?
No.
Why not?
Or she could have done that to my car too.
Listen, she could have stood on her head and had twins in the parking lot of Target. She could have done that too, but she didn't. You caused an accident damaging her car, right?
Right.
If she were to put the accident through her insurance, it would cost her additional premiums at least for the next 5 years through no fault of her own. So, would you be prepared to pay for her $500 deductible as well as her increased insurance premiums over the next 5 years?
No.
Why not?
We didn't have an agreement on if that would happen. Accidents happen.
Yes, accidents happen. And the person who is closest in responsibility for that accident bears the responsibility for that accident.
Mm-hmm.
That's what an accident is, my friend. That's why they don't call it an on purpose. Had you been more careful with her car would not have been in an accident. If there was ice and rain on the street that night, you should have taken your own car. And if you chose to take her car, you assume the responsibility for any damage that was done to the car, not her. How much did it cost to fix your car?
Total was $1,587.47.
Can I see the bill, please?
I have actually 2 estimates that I got.
Did you fix it yet?
Yes.
Good. Well, how much did it cost you to fix it?
The $1,587.47.
Okay. The other one was more.
Right.
Good. What kind of work do you do, Adam?
It's an assembly line.
You work regularly?
Yep.
You live at home?
I live with my girlfriend at her parents' house.
At her parents' house?
Yeah.
You mean her parents think that you're prize enough to let you move into their house with their daughter? How old is their daughter?
19.
19. Uh-huh. All right. Kaylee!
Yes.
He has to fix your car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,587.
Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm just happy that I won my case.
You should have to only pay the deductible.
He's been in so much trouble with the law.
Accidents happen, and that's what insurance is for.
He was probably intoxicated at the time.
She can think whatever she wants.
26-year-old child care provider Laura Burton is suing her ex-husband, 29-year-old machinist Donald Allen, for the return of her son's belongings. Donald is countersuing for car payments and insurance costs.
It's case number 48 on the calendar in the matter of Burton versus Allen. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Miss Burton, when were you and Mr. Allen married?
We got married in April of 2001.
And at the time you were married, you had a child, a boy. Is that right?
I already had him, yes.
From a previous marriage or relationship?
Relationship, yes, ma'am.
And how old was that child when you married Mr. Allen?
9 months.
And where is the father of that child?
He lives in the state of California. At the time, he lived in the state of Utah with me.
Does he support the child? Does he support the child?
Right now, no.
Last year, did he support the child?
Yes.
The year before?
Yes.
And the year before?
Yes.
And how much support was he sending for the child?
He paid $167 a month.
So not much?
Not much.
Not enough to support the child?
No, ma'am.
When you married Mr. Allen, were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Continually employed?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was watching the baby?
The biological father was watching him.
And that remained throughout your marriage to Mr. Allen, that the biological father was watching the baby while you were working?
At the point when me and Mr. Allen got married, I had put him in daycare.
And you continued to be employed?
There were points that I did become unemployed.
Large stretches of time?
No, maybe the longest stretch were 6 months.
And during that 6-month period, Mr. Allen supported the household?
Yes.
Supported you and your son?
Yes.
Okay. When were you married, Mr. Allen?
April 25th, 1998.
To her?
Yeah.
Why did she say April 2001?
I don't know. My son was born in 97, so.
You mean the baby?
Yeah, the baby.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that you made a mistake. You were
Yes,
married
ma'am.
in 1998.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you separate?
It was the end of August, September of 2002.
And when were you divorced?
October 4th, 2002.
Do you have any children together?
No.
So this is what this case is about. Miss Burton is suing you for the return and or value of property, the child's property, child's clothes, games, sporting equipment, etc., that was at your house. Because even after the divorce, you were exercising visitation with him. You coached his ball league.
Up until problems happened. So.
Whatever it was, but you were involved with him, so you kept some things at your house. Did he sleep at your house occasionally
Your
during
Honor.
visitation?
He actually lived with us from March until July.
March of what year?
2003.
Why was that?
His mother was unable to find a place to live.
For that 4 months he lived with Mr.
That is
Allen?
incorrect, Your Honor.
How long did he live with Mr. Allen?
Until May.
So he lived with Mr. Allen for 2 months?
Yes, ma'am.
According to you. But since the separation, since you were living together, Mr. Allen has had regular contact with the boy. What's
Yes,
his
ma'am.
name?
His name is Tyler.
And I would assume that Tyler is attached to Mr. Allen.
In a way.
Okay. And your lawsuit wants Mr. Allen to return all of these things. Mr. Allen says, I bought them, and they're staying in my house. I also gather from reading your complaint and his answer that you have decided it's no longer appropriate for Tyler to spend time with Mr. Allen.
It's become unhealthy.
It's become unhealthy because why?
The constant bickering between Mr. Allen and I had told him that it needed to stop. It was becoming unhealthy for everyone in the situation. I gave him a year that I continuously said, we cannot be bickering. We need to stop. Something needs to change.
Bickering about what?
Just little things, mainly my son. He was trying to run my household for me. And
who is this person?
This is my current husband, Brian.
When were you married?
We got married in November of 2003.
Tyler is 7 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And what you're telling me, Miss Burton, is that you have decided to cut off the only constant male relationship in your son's life because you couldn't get along with Mr. Allen.
Not only that I couldn't get along with Mr. Allen, but my son is fearful of this man.
I'm not interested in whether you say your son is fearful. I don't believe it. I don't believe if your son is fearful of him, you let him stay there for 2 months while you were trying to find a new place to live. That's baloney. Don't believe it. Not for a second. Anyway, she stopped all contact. Is that right?
Yes, she did.
And you have this property that you purchased.
Yes. Can I explain something real quick?
Go ahead.
When we were divorced, we agreed to split his stuff for her home and our home. Everything she bought,
stayed at her house. Everything we bought stayed at our house. And after she got pregnant the first time, she claims that I was going to let her have the baby clothes or use the baby clothes that I got in the divorce that she said I could have.
What do you mean after she became pregnant the first time? What does that
Well,
mean?
the first time, because she had a miscarriage about a year ago.
That's with her present husband?
No.
With you?
No.
With who?
Boyfriend at the time.
Okay, go ahead.
And then she asked for the clothes when she became pregnant now. And I told her no. And it came to the point where I've done so much.
Mr. Allen, you don't have to explain it to me any further. Mrs. Burton, I don't know how to put this to you. You have one child, you're expecting another. You've got a new husband. Before this new husband, you had a boyfriend with whom you were intimate and got pregnant. I mean, so your life has been up and down, and before that, you had the father of your 7-year-old who you weren't married to. So the only constant that your son has known in 7 years has been this man. When you are a parent, you are not supposed to be a selfish baby.
Ma'am,
I'm speaking. Now, unfortunately, the law does not permit Mr. Allen, who is not related to this child by blood, to seek visitation with him in most jurisdictions. It doesn't mean that he can't sue for custody of this child, because anybody can sue for custody of a child if they believe that the biological parent has so abused or neglected that child as to make it dangerous, emotionally and or physically, for the child to live with that parent. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means in most jurisdictions he cannot file for visitation, but if you become a worse mother than I believe that you are, he can file for custody. It is the wrong thing to do to cut off for your son a relationship with this man, which is the only constant he has known for 7 years because of your moving around.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, ex-husband Donald Allen owes for the return of her son's belongings. Donald claims Laura owes for car payments.
Now, not only aren't you getting the stuff back, but I'm telling you that you better watch your back, because should you do anything that places this child in either physical or emotional damage, he's going to be there.
Ma'am.
And while you may not consent to visitation because you got your nose out of whack, because I believe what he says when he says, she said to me, I'm going to lay down the rules. If you want to see him, I'm going to tell you what the rules are. That sounds like something you would say. And what you're doing is not considering the best interests of your child. And when you don't do that, you're not being a good parent. You're not getting the property back. He bought it for his stepson to stay at his house. Unfortunately, when the marriage was terminated, so was the relationship, the legal relationship of stepchild, step-parent. That you know.
I know.
That you know. And there were other things, Mr. Allen, that you could have done.
I know.
During the marriage, you could have discussed adopting him. That was a possibility. I don't know whether his biological father would have consented to that or not. The law doesn't keep up with the dynamics of our new world. And our new world is that sometimes children become very attached to their step-parents, and it's very unfair for the biological parent to use that as a sword. It's clear to me that there was a time when Mrs. Burton was very, very happy to have you fill in for her son to live with you for either 2 months or 4 months while you were in between residences. That was convenient. It no longer is convenient. I'm sorry. You don't get anything back. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's kind of upsetting. All my son wanted was his personal belongings that are there now.
So many things are put into this little boy's head, like his daddy's abandoned him.
He's the victim. I mean, I have to go home and disappoint him again.
We were best friends. There was no other way around it. Best friends with each other. We did everything together.
I'm thinking of the best interest of my child.
I love you no matter what happens or what anybody says. Your daddy loves you.
And now the next case.
Is suing vet assistants Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley for damages from an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2122, Wheat, Schilling, Hensley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Wheat, it is your claim that the defendants assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is what I gather from reading your complaint. On August 10th of this year, your cat was injured. How was your cat injured?
That I don't know. The morning of the August 10th, I had let him outside. When he came back in, he was acting peculiar. I picked him up and noticed that he had 2 long, deep gashes on his between his chest and his stomach.
At what time was this?
Approximately 10:45, 10:30.
And the defendants work at the vet where you have taken the cat before.
Not this particular cat. I have 3 cats total, and I had good service from them, so naturally I went back.
They work at a vet where you had taken an animal, maybe not this one, before.
Correct.
So at that time you put the cat in the car and drove over to where the vet's office is.
Yes.
And during that time, they had a COVID protocol in the vet's office. And the protocol, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I've taken my pets to the vet during COVID. You get to the parking lot, you call, they come out, they check in the animal and what's wrong. And then they come out when someone is ready to see the animal. They bring them inside. You do not come into the office. Is that your protocol?
Correct.
Is that your COVID protocol? Well, it was in a couple of vets where I took our dogs. Were you aware of that protocol?
No, Your Honor, not at all.
So tell me, what happened when you got to the vet's office? Is there a parking lot?
There is. There was one other vehicle there. It was pulled up in the front of the door, the very first
The
spot.
papers indicate that there is a chart or a video of the parking lot. Is that correct?
We drew a diagram that they based that on.
Okay. So that would be a fair representation, sir, of the vet clinic, and there are parking spaces in front of it?
I believe so, yes.
Where did you park? Yes, please.
My car, I'm assuming at this point, the main door is approximately over here.
Okay.
There was the vehicle that I was mentioning is parked here, and I was parked here.
Okay, but you were parked right in front.
Yes.
Okay, is that right?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so what happened when you got there?
Well, I walked around the back of the car, and I went immediately up to the door, and I don't know the defendants' names, but the younger of the two, she was already out front with a...
You mean the young lady in the blue sweater?
Yes.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yes,
You're
Your
looking
Honor.
over there. What is your last name?
Hensley.
Miss Hensley.
She was already outside with a customer at
Your
that
Honor,
point.
that was, it wasn't me.
Don't speak. Okay, so you say Miss Hensley was already outside
Well,
with another patient.
I thought it was Miss Hensley. It could have been another lady that worked there, but it was similar in youth and...
Okay, so somebody came out and was talking to another
They were already there, and so they stopped me. I was proceeding up to the door, and I, like I say, I have pictures of the signage that they have. So you can't read the signage until you get right up on top of it.
Okay, so you went to the door, and what happened?
I went to go in, and I was stopped.
By whom?
The lady that was outside.
Okay, and the person who was outside stopped you?
And said that you couldn't go in, so I stopped. I told him that it was an emergency, that my cat was injured.
You told the lady outside?
That was outside, absolutely. Told him that he was injured and that he needed to see somebody immediately, the vet. And they suggested that I needed to call, and I couldn't understand that because I was already there. I said, "Can't you just go inside and let them know that I was here?" That seemed reasonable to me.
What they told you was to get back into your car with the cat and call the...
No.
Or just call?
Just call. So I said,
So she was talking to the person who I assume was a female, because you say Miss Hensley or someone resembling her. They were taking care of another patient that was outside.
Yeah, when they stopped me before I got...
And said, stop.
Correct.
Call, right?
Correct.
And you were upset, and you said, well, why can't you just go inside and tell them that I'm here?
Yeah,
Well, because she was with somebody else.
Well, it appeared to me that they were done.
Okay, I don't care what appeared to you.
yes.
She was outside with somebody else. She told you to call. What happened next?
Well, I sat the cat down, and I actually sat on the concrete and waited. That person had...
Waited for what?
That person left. As soon as they got done talking with me, they went into the building. So, and I waited about 5 minutes. And then I guess it was Miss Hensley now. She came out and asked me, and I told her, I said, no, it was an emergency. And then she told me at that time that there was no vet on duty. And so then that's when I got up. I was upset. I said that I needed to leave. I did use an explicitive.
What did you say?
Well, I said that I needed to get out of there so I could get some help.
Okay.
And then I picked up my cat and the carrier, and I was proceeding to leave.
And?
That's when the other plaintiff,
Miss Schilling came
out, and she confronted me, and she started into a huge rant about how she wasn't going to stand there and listen to this or whatever.
Were you shouting at Miss Hensley?
No.
No. She told you that there was no vet on duty.
Right.
And you got up and you said, I'm going to get the whip out of here.
Correct.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The fact that I had waited 5 minutes, I was, it was upsetting. So then when she
Miss Schilling came out and
she started into a huge rant.
What did she say? A rant is a conclusion. What did she say?
Well, she had her voice raised. She was shouting at me.
What did she say?
She said that she wasn't going to stand there and let me say things to this other woman. So then I just looked at her and I told her basically to shut up. So
is that what you said to her?
I told her to shut up.
Okay, so you again used an expletive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no reason for it. Okay.
I'm just asking you what happened.
Yes.
So you told her to shut up.
I did.
And?
That's when she came over. She was probably about 3 foot away, and she stepped right over into me, and she put her body on mine. So she stepped right into me, pushed me back with her body, and she told me, I'm not afraid of you, I'm not intimidated by you. And I told her, don't touch me, get off of me. And I told her twice, and she never moved. I put my cat down, and I moved her off of me.
What do you mean, I
pushed her back off of me.
You put your hands on her.
She was already on me.
How was she on you, sir? What physical part of the defendant?
Her chest, her entire body was leaning on me at that point. She body checked me.
I'd like you to go over there and show me where Miss Schilling came out and where the three of you were standing.
Okay, I have pictures as well.
Okay.
So here being the front door, when I picked up the cat, I moved over to here. When she came out the door, she was approximately here, and then she moved over to me and put her body on mine.
When Miss Hensley came out and told you there was no vet, why didn't you just get into your car?
I was leaving.
Well, when she came out, why didn't you just go into your car?
No, the first lady that I encountered never told me there was no vet.
No. I understand that. When Miss Hensley came out and told you there was no vet, why didn't you just get into your car?
I was leaving. I had picked up my cat and literally was walking away. I had walked from here to approximately here. In that meantime, she came out, and I had my back to her at first, and she started to yell.
No, he wasn't. He was yelling in my face.
Just a second. I'm going to let you have a turn as soon as he's finished. Go ahead.
She started to yell at me, and that's when I told her.
Okay, go back.
Thank you.
And then what happened? So now she put her body on you. You put both hands on her and pushed her back.
To push her off me.
And then what happened?
Then she struck me.
How did she strike you?
With her open hand.
Where did she strike you?
On my face.
Okay, when you pushed her, she slapped you.
She did.
And next?
And then the other one slapped me. She reached over her shoulder and slapped me.
Okay, on the face?
On the face.
And then?
And then we started to argue, and it was just yelling back and forth. And then the gentleman came out of the vehicle that was parked in that first spot, and he kind of diffused the engagement, and that's when she told me, just leave. I felt safe enough to turn at that point, and I went and put my cat back in the car, and that's when the lady in the blue ran behind my car, said, don't let him leave, ran behind my car and placed her body on my car.
And
then that's when I told her, I said, you can't detain me here. I'm going to take my cat to someplace where I can get him some medical. And I moved her away from my car.
How did you move her away?
With my hands.
So you...
Open hands.
Okay.
That's when she turned and struck me with her fist, broke my glasses, gave me a black eye. I was defending myself at that point. I had my hands up. I'm all cut up on this. And then that's when I finally grabbed her by her hair and pulled her off of me.
Which one did you grab by the hair?
The brunette.
What?
He started screaming in my face, and I don't even remember. I'm so sorry. I don't remember exactly what he was saying. It was really scary. That's all I know.
John Wheat claims vet assistants Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley owe for damages after he was assaulted in the parking lot.
Okay. Now, prior to her going behind your car, you had no physical interaction with her.
Other than her hitting me.
She slapped you.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Miss Hensley, you came out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do for the vet?
I am a vet assistant.
And how long have you worked for the vet?
Like a year and a half.
So you've been working for the vet all during COVID?
Yes.
Is this the first incident that you had while you've been working at this vet?
Yes.
How long have you been working at the vet?
10 years now.
Have you ever had another incident like this, either during COVID or before?
Not like this, Your Honor. I've had to call the police before. We've had threats. We've had people shouting. Of course, animals bring out emotions, but never has anything ever been physical.
Did you know Mr. Wheat from prior visits with other cats?
I did not. I do know that we had seen one cat once before, and that actually was during COVID.
During COVID?
Yes.
So you checked, and it was the same COVID protocol?
Yes.
Leaving one?
We've had the same protocol since COVID started.
Okay. So the last time you took a cat there, you were familiar with the COVID protocol. Just think about what you're saying to me.
Okay.
The last time you took a cat there was during COVID, so you were familiar with the COVID protocol.
I believe I might have called before I went there.
And you waited in the parking lot. Somebody came out, took the cat inside.
I believe so.
And that's the protocol. And the reason that you didn't do that this time is because you felt as if it was an emergency.
Yeah, I was not aware of any protocol.
Yes, you were.
No.
Oh, yes, of course you were. Of course you were aware of a protocol, sir. The woman outside told you that there was a protocol. She said you have to call first. And she was speaking to somebody out in the parking lot. You know, you've had animals for a long time. When I go to the vet, there usually isn't somebody out in the parking lot. So you know that there's a protocol because you know that somebody else was out there talking to a patient and said to you, you have to call first.
After, yes.
And said to you, you have to call first. Okay. Now, you want to tell me what happened when you first interacted with him?
Yes, so he was sitting outside, and so I went out and told him that he would have to call to check in, that we were curbside, and he said that he wasn't calling anybody. And I told him I had to call and check in over the phone, and then that we would come out and then bring in his cat. And he said that he wasn't doing that he wanted to see a doctor then. And I was like, we cannot do that. And so then I asked him, did he have an appointment with us? Like, what's the cat's name? I'm not even sure, what we're dealing with here. I need to get an idea of what we're dealing with. And I think he said the names of the cat was Pebbles. I don't even know. I'm not sure. But I asked if we had an appointment. He said no. And then I asked him what was wrong. And he said, the cat's bleeding out. She's dying. Something along the lines of that. Screamed at my face. And so I said, sir, I'm so sorry. You need to go to an emergency clinic. We don't have a vet today. And so then he started screaming in my face, got up, screaming in my face,
Was there a vet there that
No,
day?
we were doing tech appointments that day, so just like nail trims, things like that, things that we can do without doctor.
So there was no vet there?
Yeah, there was no vet.
So you told him you have to go to an emergency room?
Yes.
And when you said there was some shouting, what was he saying to you?
He was basically saying...
No, not basically.
It happened a long time ago, so honestly, I don't remember the exact words.
Okay, so you don't remember exactly what he said to you. He was angry. Okay, he sort of acknowledges that he was angry. Then what happened?
I'm sorry, it's a lot. Reliving it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He started screaming in my face that we weren't helping and that he would be leaving, but he just was still screaming in my face. And I don't even remember. I'm so sorry. I don't remember exactly what he was saying.
Just take a minute.
It was really scary. That's all I know. And I told him that he needed to leave, and he wasn't. And that's when Heather finally came out and told him that he needed to leave. She got in between us and was like, sir, you need to leave now. And she just kept saying, you need to leave now. And he kept screaming in our faces. And she was like, I'm not going to have you screaming at my girls. That's what he's referring to when she got into his face. She said she did step into his face to push him away because he needed to leave. And she said, you're not going to be screaming at my girls. He still was being belligerent, not leaving. And at that point, that's when he spit in my face. And that's what caused me to shove him. And then he grabbed.
When you said, so we'll stop for a second. You came outside because you heard an altercation outside.
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
Stood in between the two of them, and I told him he needed to leave. He needed to leave now. I told him I was not going to have him talking to my girls like that. That wasn't appropriate. He needed to leave. And he was still shouting, and then that's when he spit in my face. And then I did push him away to get back from me, and he stepped forward. I did smack him with an open hand, and then he pushed me. And what he's leaving out is he actually grabbed my scrub top, and he was pulling on my scrub top, and that's why Hannah had stepped back in. She tried to get his arm off, which probably is where the scratches came from, and he grabbed her scrub top at the same time. So there was more contact than...
Where was the cat?
The cat was actually behind me. He had left the cat there.
Sounds like a little bit more, Mr. Wheat, than what you told me in your narrative.
They're lying. First off, she said that when she just admitted to the fact that she told me that I needed to call. And that's the first thing I said when I came and pulled up, is that the person that I met outside at the very beginning told me that I needed to call.
Yes.
And she just said that she told me I needed to call. There would have been no reason for the second person to come out and tell me that I needed to call. At that point, they came out and told me, asked me if I had an appointment, and I said no, that it was an emergency. And I had my cat the entire time with me until I put him down in order to push her off of me. That's the only time I put my cat down, and he was next to me the whole time. I would not have left my cat between her and me.
Mr. Wheat, these people have been in business for a very long time. Is it just possible, sir, that because of the circumstances, and you were there with a cat who was bleeding out, that you were high energy and maybe not totally composed? I mean, I have two people work here, at least one who's worked for the same vet for 10 years. You've used this vet before. You haven't had problem with this vet before, and she's been there 10 years. And I assume that, at least she tells me, she's never had an incident like this before. So I can actually imagine, I'm trying to put myself here, somebody comes out and says to you, we don't have a vet on duty, which you probably didn't believe at the moment.
No, I did.
Well, if you believed that there was no vet on duty, why didn't you just walk into your car? Why did you say anything to her? Why did you use an expletive? Why was there any need to have any communication at all with her? If there's no vet here, okay, I better get my animal too.
Well, Your Honor, when I first pulled in and I had that conversation, that term loosely, whoever, they knew what I was there for.
Don't tell me what anybody else knew, sir. You were not told that there was no vet inside by the first person that you encountered.
No, that's wrong.
No, I was absolutely right, sir, in what I said to you. So say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
John Wheat has accused vet assistants Heather Schilling and Hannah Hensley of injuring him after an assault in the parking lot.
Go ahead.
I explained that it was an emergency.
Just a second. The person that you were talking to, you just told me, was dealing with another client who had another animal out in the parking lot.
And I told them that it was an emergency.
Okay. Well, one man's emergency is not. How's the cat?
Now?
Yes.
The cat's fine from that injury, but he's blind now.
Well, fine from that. Did you get the cat to a vet?
I did.
How far away?
20 minutes.
And what did they do to the cat?
Clean and sutured.
And you took him home?
I did.
And you took him the same day?
I did. Yes.
And when you went to the second vet, it was an emergency vet?
It was.
Okay. Did they have a curbside arrangement there? They did not?
No.
Had you called them if
No.
you drove? Well, you mean you drove 20 minutes not knowing if they could get to see a vet?
They're open.
How do you know?
I've been there many times.
Mr. Wheat, do you think that I think that you drove with your cat without calling first to see if they were open and a vet there when they had already told you that their vet wasn't there? Why would I get in the car? I would at least make a call.
The only other vet that's available right there.
Well, how do you know that that vet was available?
I've never been there where they've not.
You have any medical records for me to see of your injuries? I'd like to see
My
them.
injuries?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'd like to see them.
I have pictures of my injuries.
I'd like to see that. Miss Schilling said that you spit in her face. Is that true?
That's not true. You're not. I don't have any lower teeth. When she was in my face yelling at me, and I was yelling back at her, that's when she made that accusation.
It was more than just a little bit of spittle, Your Honor.
It was what?
More than just a little bit of spittle, Your Honor.
He full on spit.
Okay. Do you have a police report?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Okay, so the police report indicates that they were called. I assume they were called by you?
Yes.
Because they responded to their location. And the police officer observed red marks on her neck and her hair falling out of her head.
I do have pictures as well, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I pulled her off of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got all those scratches in my black eye.
I'd like to see the defendant's photographs.
Okay.
Mr. Wheat, I've read the police report, I've looked at your pictures, and can I see the pictures from the defendants? I do not have a cross complaint. Your answer, Ms. Schilling and Ms. Hensley, both indicate this was a terrible incident and you just wanted to go away.
Yes, Your Honor.
You too. You too.
I did call the police.
You too.
I called the police before they called.
You too. Mr. Wheat, you know, there are certain things that are common sense. And the common sense of it is you were upset, you were aggravated, you were angry, you were not getting what you needed. You were not told that there was no vet inside by the first person that you encountered. So
No,
you
wrong.
Well,
I wasn't told until after the second person came.
I said, no, I was absolutely right, sir, in what I said to you. I said you were not told by the first person that you encountered that there was no vet inside. So say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. It wasn't until Miss Hensley came outside that she told you that there was no vet inside. That is correct, ma'am.
That is correct.
Right. Now, in between that time, according to you, you sat outside for 5 minutes.
That's correct.
You sat outside for 5 minutes and you did not do what you were instructed to do by the person who was outside taking care of another animal. And they said, you have to call first. You said, you're right here. Why can't you tell them? That's what you just told me. Is that correct?
As soon as I finished with the conversation about them calling, they left me and went inside.
That's okay. You did not call. And you sat there on the cement, according to you, and waited. Then she came outside and told you there's no vet.
That's correct.
Okay. By that time, you were very angry because now you had a cat that was sick. Oh, yes, absolutely. It says so in the police report that belligerent and you were angry, but the first physical contact that happened was the defendant to you. But you say you were belligerent and you were angry.
Yes.
And you honestly said that to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You didn't act smart. If I had my animal that was bleeding to the vet and they said call, I would have called. And if I didn't call and if I waited outside and somebody came outside and said to me, the vet's not here, all I would have said is, why didn't somebody tell me that before? Because I waited out here for 5 minutes, even though I didn't do what I was told to do, which was to call first and check in. Do you understand? Your case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Obviously, I have to stand by what she said.
I think that it was very fair. I think that she saw that he was an angry man who was upset about his cat.
They were the aggressor to me.
As soon as he was screaming and yelling, I think that that was the line.
I was holding up my hand trying to protect myself from her. She hit me, broke my glasses, gave me a black eye.
The sooner that you leave, the sooner you can get your cat treatment.
I was upset at some point, I would have to say. That's true.
Pretty bad. I've been having issues like working with people coming up to the door.
Cat survived.
He is not welcome. The police did place a no trespass, and that was honestly our goal. We just didn't want him to come back.
You know, people get really upset when their pets are injured and they can't get immediate care. It's not quite as acute probably as when your child is sick and you take them to the emergency room and there are 500 people in the emergency room, but your child has a sore arm. You don't know if it's broken or not, you know, and you're agitated. He was clearly agitated, agitated and angry. Actually, I sympathized with him. You know, the first person could have said to him, we have no vet. If it's an emergency, go someplace else. Didn't. And then he sat and waited. And as he sat and waited, got angrier and angrier. And then we have no vet. You have to go someplace else. Bottom line, it was all a bad scene. But it was a bad scene precipitated by him.
Yeah, just listening to his story, I could tell the agitation level just as he's waiting and not getting info.
Right.
You could tell. And like you said, sympathize with it.
Unfortunate. I think the defendants actually were interesting that they didn't file a counterclaim.
I also was surprised
because
by that.
they had, one of them, the young woman, had some serious injuries, pulled her hair out. She had...
He's suing his former employer, Chad Young, for unpaid wages and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2140, DeTorres versus Young.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. DeTorres, according to your complaint, you did some work for the defendant as a plumber. Didn't work out, and he terminated you, and he owes you some wages.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that while your work in the beginning was okay, you were never an employee of his. You're an independent contractor. That's the way he sets it up, and he's going to explain that to me. That he paid you your wages, even though the last job that you did cost him an awful lot to repair. He was not happy with the quality of work that you did, and his Counterclaim is for vandalism, something that happened with his truck, work hours lost due to your incompetence. That I'm not going to hear, sir. You know, you make a choice with an employee, and if it turns out to be something that is less than satisfactory, then you let them go. But the one who I assume suffered from what you call lack of quality work that he performed was the person that you were working for. Was that a private residence that he was doing work in?
Yes. Yeah, a bunch of private residents.
Yeah, that's the person who suffered.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're going to make this as easy as possible. From what days to what days did you work?
I worked for Chad from June 13th to August 3rd.
And how much were you supposed to be paid?
For those 3 days, $840.
Paid June 13th
Yes, ma'am.
to August 3rd?
Correct.
Well, that's more than 3 days.
No, his wage he owes me from August 1st to August 3rd is what he did not pay me for.
Okay, and where did you work during those days?
Multiple residents.
Okay, do you have any sort of a call log from him?
I do. It's right
Okay.
here in my
Do you dispute that he worked from August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd?
Yes.
You dispute that he...
There was one day he actually did one of my jobs for a couple hours that day.
Doesn't matter. He has a log.
Half a day for one day.
Did you pay him for that half day?
I did not, because the job was done incorrectly multiple times.
But he did that job. Okay, now, do you have a log?
As in?
It's some sort of a work log. You have a business. You have people who are general contractors. You get a call. You don't have a payroll because you pay these people independently. Do you pay them in cash or check?
Both.
Well, how did you pay him?
Sometimes it was through a cashier's check and sometimes it was cash.
Okay, but never through a company check where you deducted Social Security.
No, because I 1099 all my employees, so they're all self-employed, so they have to do all that on their own.
I do understand. I mean, you're not the inventor of this whole system, sir, of paying in cash. Okay. Are you one of those? How long have you been an independent contractor?
I've been contracted with Chad since July 5th.
Of what year?
This year, 2022.
Oh, so short term.
Yes, ma'am.
Does he pay you in check or cash? No, look at me.
Check it first, and then later on it became through Venmo, and then it's gone back to check now.
What kind of check?
Cashier's check.
Just a straight cashier's check with nothing taken out.
No, ma'am.
No, I go to my bank to get all that.
What?
I go to my bank to get the cashier's checks, and sometimes I Venmo him the payment too, just to pay.
I understand, but sir, you're not the first person who I know who pays their people in cash and says that you're independent contractors. You're independent contractors. I don't want to know about it. What name do you use for the cashier's checks?
My personal name.
Is this the first time you've worked for him?
Yes.
Okay, let me see what you have for August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Where did you work? Come on.
There were multiple residents, ma'am.
Well, you have to tell me so that he can answer. He said that you worked half a day that he didn't pay you for.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say that's a full day. So that's $200.
Okay. See, he would email it on his work phone, and I'd follow the addresses there.
Well, then you would have it on your phone.
My short notes on this.
Just a second. Then you would have it on your phone.
It was his company phone. He took it back when he came to my house unannounced and told me that I was fired. Redeemed his truck. Got my tools out of his vehicle.
Okay, just a second.
I have my personal one that I...
What about the phone that you took from him?
No, that one's actually broke, so it's been with Mo for the past week.
Let me see the notes that you have that you took.
Yes, ma'am.
Fascinating.
It's my shorthand, ma'am.
How do I know what dates these are for?
It was all on his phone, ma'am.
Well, that's not him to have to prove, sir.
I wasn't able to prove anything when he took his phone back. I just had that's the notes when I was employed for him, as I wrote down.
It's not helpful to me.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, the only thing that he's acknowledged is that he owes you a day's wages.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is $210. The other part of your complaint is a false restraining order against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you file a restraining order against him? Do you have a copy of what you wrote in your restraining order?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
So what got me that restraining order is he called and made threats and made
Was
threats.
this after you fired him?
It was.
Okay, so after you fired him, he called you.
Made threats.
Well, what did he say when he called you?
Just basically talking about, I'm going to come to your house and everything.
He wanted money.
I guess, yeah.
He said, you didn't pay me.
Yeah.
Okay. You say you got a text message and voicemail from Jeremy threatening to come to my place of residence.
Yes.
Can I hear it?
Yeah. Do you want me to play it, or do you want to look at it?
I want to look at it.
Okay.
So Mr. Torres took your house. Did you call him threatening to come to his house?
I did.
You did?
With the police. It says it on these text messages, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to take his phone and those text messages.
There's more text. That's just the one where he said he'd send me my money.
That's the voicemail, if you want me to play it for you. Sometimes the transcription doesn't work.
Yeah.
You want me to play it?
Just...
Hey, bro. I definitely worked more than 9 hours for the last week that I worked for you. I'll be contacting my... Play with me. I'll show up at your house.
Yeah, that's a threat.
With the police.
Just a second. That's a threat.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I've had more.
That's a threat.
I had more incidents before that as well.
May I say something, ma'am? He accused me of going into his gated community, slashing tires on his work vehicle. I stated that I was going to come to his house after, if you read my text, I said to him, hey, bro, I think I misunderstood your text message. If I did, my bad. If not, I'll show up at your house with the police. I never went to his house. I waited to see if he'd be the big man and just send me my money like he said he would.
I listened to the message, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
The message sounded threatening.
Did you read the rest of them?
I don't care. That message sounded threatening. Where does it say here that his tires were slashed?
In my mind, what else would it be?
But you have to understand that that's not what this says.
And later today,
I was financially struggling.
Well, you weren't living together at the time.
No, she would periodically come over and
but you weren't living together at the time. So how would she find out that you were in financial trouble?
Jeremy DeTorres claims his former employer, Chad Young, owes for unpaid wages and filing a false restraining order.
Okay, that message alone, if he felt threatened because you were going to come to his house, and you not only said you were going to come to his house, but you used an expletive before you did that, which sounded threatening. This may be more benign, but that phone message was sufficient for him to file for a protective order against you.
Okay, why didn't he show up at the protective custody order?
I don't answer your questions.
No,
you don't necessarily.
Absolutely.
Some people don't pursue it because once it's done, it's done.
It wasn't done.
And once it's done,
This is the dismissal right here. Dismissal for the
No, I didn't show up. I understand he didn't show up, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm saying to you, I listened to your text message, and he had an absolute right to see.
Can you see where he's been calling each other? Because it's in the text
You're
messages.
suing him for money owed for wages and filing a false restraining order.
Okay.
You've proven that you worked an additional day for which he didn't pay you, which is $210. He has a counterclaim. Yep. He says that you vandalized the tires on his car. The rest of it, I'm not dealing with, sir. You picked this employee. You don't then sue the employee if you don't like the job that they do. You fire them and you get somebody else to do the job. But you can't sue him because did the person who you did the job for sue you?
No, because I've got a really good reputation with my customers.
Because you fixed it. Because it wasn't done right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even up to that last day I said he worked for me, that job I had to go back to 2 weeks ago that they couldn't close on the house.
And next time you won't hire him. Yeah. Maybe other people won't either. But I want you to tell me about the tires. I want you to tell me what proof do you have that he had anything to do with your tires? When were the tires slashed, flattened?
So the police report was done Friday when he made the threats.
Friday. What's the date?
I got the date right here. I think it was
August 5th.
Yeah, so August 5th is when he did it.
August 5th is when
the police report was made for the threats.
For the threat, for the voicemail?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it was the end of the day Friday, so court's closed for the weekend.
August 5th.
Yep. And then Monday, the 8th, I went outside to go to work. My tires were slashed in the end. At that point, restraining order so people can't come onto my my property.
Because you believed it was the plaintiff who was responsible. You believed you didn't have proof at the time.
Yes.
You didn't have.
Again, and even in my injunction, I knew all I needed was this police report to get the injunction, so I just put in my police report.
You're
that
not
my
talking
tires
about
were
an
flat.
injunction. You're talking about a restraining order.
Yeah, the restraining order. Yeah,
Okay.
so when I
It
went
was
to file the
injunction.
restraining. So in my restraining order, I put just my tires were flat. I did not put my tires were slashed at any point because I knew the police report was enough to get the restraining order.
Okay, your
so I didn't
tires
go
were
in
flat.
detail about my tires.
Okay, so in the police report, you have that your tires were flattened.
No, that wasn't on the police report because that didn't happen yet. The tire incident did not happen.
Okay.
That happened Friday. Monday morning, I went out in my vehicle to go to work. That's when I found them flat and slashed.
Did you file another police report?
That's when I went and filed the restraining order that day. And I have
Okay,
a
and in
copy
the
of that
application for a restraining order, you said?
that my tires were flat, and that was it.
Yes, okay.
I didn't mention that they were slashed.
Correct.
So I don't know how he would
Got
know
it.
my tires were slashed if I didn't mention it on my restraining order.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. Mr. DeTorres. Mr. DeTorres, stop your paper fluttering.
Okay.
What made you think rather than just the air let out of them?
Because I read this police report and it has a mark right here saying, or the file
Show me.
that he did.
Show me. And make a circle.
Right here, damaged property is what I read. He checked that I damaged his property because this is written against me.
Mr. DeTorres, do you understand my question, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm nervous in the
Just a
flight.
second.
I
This
had no
has
sleep.
nothing to do with nerves,
You're
Mr.
right.
DeTorres.
Well, I had no sleep last night.
That has nothing to do with sleep.
As far as not being...
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm asking you, Mr. DeTorres, is where does it say here that his tires were slashed?
In my mind, somebody writing that against me, flattened tires, what else would it be? He lives in a gated community.
Well, that could
Where's
be...
the surveillance showing me that my leg injury, the way I walk, is very distinctive, okay? If he's got proof that I slashed or flattened his tires, I said slashed. It's the same thing as flattened in my mind. That's the way I think. The way I read that, that's just how it came out of my mouth.
But you have to understand that that's not what this says.
Okay? It says that I damaged his
He
property.
said damaged his property, and you said slash tires.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
How much were the tires?
$450.
Let me see the receipt.
I do not have a receipt because I pay cash for my tires.
Well, that's too bad. You better stop paying cash, sir. You can pay cash for tires.
Yeah.
But when you buy tires with cash and you want to sue for them, you get a receipt from the people. And if you know you're coming to court, you were coming to court today.
I went back to the tire shop and he's like, we just, we always do cash for all your vehicles. And
Well, what do you mean
receipts, no
cash
nothing.
for all your vehicles? That means you get a receipt. All right, your counterclaim's dismissed because you have no proof of anything. On the complaint, sir, I'm awarding you $210, which is 1 day's pay. Thank you very much. This case is over.
This court is adjourned.
The work just wasn't up to the quality that he promised he was going to offer.
It is what it is.
That's just his nature. That's always been his nature.
The judgment is what the judgment is. She felt like I was only awarded a day's pay, and that's what she gave me.
Keep doing what I do. That's all I can do every day.
Well, Sarah Rose, that is the perfect example of you're supposed to have proof when you come to court.
Yep. Standard of proof exists for a reason.
I know that when I go someplace, and sometimes I pay cash. So even if you pay cash for something,
There's some
or Venmo,
record. Venmo
you're
is a good
supposed to
record.
get a receipt in the event that you want to use whatever you bought and use that fact that you purchased something in a subsequent lawsuit.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as sending a gift. If you send somebody a gift, you keep the receipt until you know that they got the gift.
Yeah.
Then you take it and you throw it away. It's just
It's good bookkeeping. It's good record keeping. I
And
think.
he's a business guy.
Yeah.
He's a business guy. Didn't make sense to me, but clearly plaintiff for somebody who has...
Tiffany Acuna for rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Ms. Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting,
Correct.
for how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
Was
over
being
a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children?
Yes.
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021 to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list too of our.
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time. And there was other times I paid her different amounts, but our agreement was because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well.
So our agreement had changed.
Just a second.
Okay.
You have an app 10 months.
Mm-hmm. 12,000 something is right in here on the list.
Take a look, because you're going to show it to me.
I paid total $10,411.
Okay, and she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent. And you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally. Yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April. 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before then. I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
Believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right. And my children didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you the text?
I don't care where you show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So apologize. Okay. Apologize. Sorry. So if you want, and then she can scroll down because she kind of keeps for a couple days.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here,
That was the first time I'd heard, about her.
Oh, no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them?
Mm-hmm.
How much child support do you receive?
$300.
$300 a what?
A month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Mm-hmm. Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something. I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job. And got it, $400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there? Mm-hmm. And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her.
No, I was gone for
3.5 weeks. You were gone for almost a month. Mm-hmm. She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay. And your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night?
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month?
Of course not.
Okay. So they were home with your sister?
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches, like the whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couch from the living room, it was a sectional, and the couch from the basement.
Living room and basement, what happened to those couches?
Oh, they were gone a long time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those 2 items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Ms. Noble, your sister says that she has proof that those 2 couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9.
Lucinda Noble claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
she owes you for rent.
The TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer. She took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds.
Just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds, and this was damages from her cat.
can't see it all. And if you're talking about nail holes, I'm not interested in nail holes where there were pictures, putty them up. I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house, like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of the house.
My daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
She doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
She says she doesn't remember. I have to rely on what you say to me because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For 2 blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are 2 different windows.
Oh, times 2. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's
okay. If you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit. Okay. Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the incident report.
Yes, you called the police, and the police came, and when the police came on, do we have the date?
26th April.
The police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with 2 sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS?
Called me. Real quick.
Child Protective Services.
Right, they did call me. But first, I actually had the phone call from my sister, my witness, who is here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Aslett. I'm the older sister from these 2. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called. Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda?
Yes.
On April 26th?
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child, if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was...
The daughter is the 5-year-old?
Yes. And
okay, not the 2-year-old.
Yeah. She supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me. I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay. And your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message.
Just a second. Was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her
Yes.
boyfriend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to, supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous. And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that.
Well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why is this
She made
justified?
the comment that
so she called
Tiffany has
you.
not been there.
Okay, you had to.
For there.
And she said?
I just know.
And gave you no more specifics?
No.
Okay, you want to tell me about that conversation?
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well.
But I knew it was going to be happening.
Okay, Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay. Now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And you left your kids alone, correct?
With my sister.
With your sister? Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You've got to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time, too, where I would get 1 week there was nothing. She said, I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi. Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their chores.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right.
I don't need you to reinforce what I just said. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things.
Stand up. What I want to know is you're her daughter.
Yes.
Your first name?
Anna Noble.
Anna, what do you do?
I work front desk at a hotel.
Graduate from high school?
No.
Why?
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble?
It was many things. I was a very wild teenager.
Until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children, who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof. Just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proof.
Okay. When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. Had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is that right?
He did treat it. He told me. He told me immediately.
So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All three.
Oh, yeah.
All three kids were taken.
That's it.
Okay. Okay. There you go, sir.
Okay. You had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, because that was in 2021, you were clearly drug tested by the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services.
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my
tests. At that time, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay. That's what this report says. You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right away.
Do you have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf, or somebody that she knew, or her, called Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me, that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Thank you. I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history. Didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 20. Still recent history. Okay. So whoever called, it was worth, according to this caseworker, they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you. We're done.
My
This court is
property?
adjourned. We're done.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and It was like a oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I've just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
You know, when people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS, current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself.
It's
for
basis
the claim.
itself. Yeah, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no. They're watching.
Yeah.
They're watching, and they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I felt sorry for all.
Graag